he was a dual threat guy. He's a guy that could block. I mean, literally, he stayed in for pass blocking. Was a pass block kind of like a right tackle. Really was great in the run game. Obviously, he was a threat in the pass game. Short routes, deep routes, red zone targets. The guy could do everything. And especially with a guy with his personality, too, obviously helps out a lot. And I'm not saying his personality is what's going to make him the best tight end of all time, but it is kind of baffling to me that, because having talked to him a couple times, having seen him in Bourbon Street with his shirt off with his family, drinking beer and whatnot, to see that guy, and that's who he is. This isn't some kind of facade. It's not some kind of act. I mean, that's who his brothers, and his dad, they really are. And the fact that he could fit into that Patriots culture, that Bill Belichick culture where, it's all about business. It's all about going to work, coming in, with your hard hat, your lunch pail every single day. And the fact that they can make Gronk work in that kind of system and that kind of culture, it goes to show you just, I guess, how great of a coach Bill Belichick really is, and B, just how great of a team, teams, I should say, the Patriots have been.
Well, what's interesting about Rob Gronkowski is he comes across, and he kind of does this to himself as the dumb jock, right? The stupid
absolutely.
guy, the guy, you're prototypical for the last however many decades football player, right? Somebody helped him get through high school. Somebody helped him get through college. He found a way because he's very gifted and talented, and he probably can't do 5 + 3, right? I mean, that's kind of the way he comes across. It's kind of the way he projects himself, kind of the way the family projects themselves.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of it is exactly what you said. Smart enough to know that when you go to work with the New England Patriots, and probably I feel like he would have been like this with any team, but the New England Patriots certainly, I think, help that. They keep you in check a little bit because of Tom Brady and Belichick and their success, that you have to buy into whatever they're doing, especially if you're going to be a part of it for a long time. And smart enough to know that. Smart enough to kind of know, okay, these are the times you can have fun with the Patriots organization. And he went outside that little bubble of the Patriots at times, but smart enough to reel it in and not go over the top and just kind of say and do fun, sometimes people would say stupid things, but nothing that really crossed the line to get him in trouble by the NFL, by police, and it kept him in the good graces of that organization. And the other thing is, you've seen all these reports, right, where he did not spend, he's only spent his endorsement money. Yep. Is the word with Gronkowski. Mm-hmm. So all the money he's earned in his career, which is like $60 million, he says he still has.
Yeah, and which I absolutely believe.
How about that? So from, again, dumb jock guy being really super smart with his money, knowing that his career ends at 30 years old and he's got some 30, 40, 50 years. Well, hopefully 50 years to live, 60 years to live. That's a long, long time. Yeah. And now he's got the money to spend, and we'll see what else he does. We're going to stay on Rob Gronkowski because – one, I want to know, will they make a guy like him again? See, I think the athletes that transcend the sport, that are the best at the position, we argue that are the best position, 9 out of 10 times you don't see that athlete. LeBron James. You don't see that kind of athlete very often. Wilt Chamberlain, at least at the time, we didn't see that kind of athlete. And I'm still not sure we do. We have a lot of tall guys, but I'm not sure we see Wilt Chamberlain like. Didn't watch him up close and personal enough. You think about some of these, now quarterback's different because they kind of make those guys all similar, it seems. Yeah. But will they make another Rob Gronkowski? He looked like somebody, some mad scientist made him up, right? He had all the body armor on, and he looked like the Terminator at times. You could not defend him. So as much as we have fantastic athletes all over the place, he was unique. He was different in that sense because he could block, because he could catch, but because of his body type, I think that made him so different and unique and tough to defend. And I think that's a trait that a lot of guys that are great, maybe the greatest at their positions or in their sport, certainly have. And Gronkowski certainly seems to fill that part of it where he's so unique. And the other part of it is, how much does personality help these guys? How much does the platform and what you know about them or what you think about them or how much you like them or, again, how transcendent they are with personality fit? We talk about Mike Trout. See, Mike Trout is like Rob Gronkowski. They don't make baseball players like Mike Trout. He is a linebacker playing baseball. He is not your normal baseball player. But He doesn't have the personality of Gronk. Therefore, he doesn't transcend the sport of baseball.
Agreed, but he also hasn't won the championships like Gronk either.
Well, that's true.
And
you still need that platform.
You do, and especially being in football, personality is so important because people don't get to see us that much because we're underneath their pads, underneath their helmets, as opposed to the NBA and even in MLB a little bit, where your personalities can shine through. People only know football players from their helmets. So anytime you get a chance, and like I said, Gronk was just being himself, but anytime you get a chance to be yourself and, maybe have some of these quotable things in the media or, have these crazy party cruises or whatever you're doing, Gronk took full advantage of it, and look what came out of it. I mean, he was doing Tide Pods. He was doing all these endorsement deals and whatnot because of his personality. So anytime I feel like an NFL player gets a chance to be themselves, and I've said it before on the show, sometimes that kind of, that kind of rubs people the wrong way, especially in upper management in the NFL. But for whatever reason, it just worked with Gronk in New England.
Absolutely. Does it make him the best ever? Let's debate it next on ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we can have, and sometimes the most elusive. I'm Mark Anajar from the Law Office of Anajar and Levine. If you've been involved in a car accident, call the Law Offices of Anajar and Levine at 904-600-4000 for a consultation.
Office in Jacksonville.
Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball presented by Community First with tickets starting at just $5. Opening weekend is April 4th through the 8th. Don't miss opening day presented by Firehouse Subs and Rimrock Devlin with free magnet schedules courtesy of Crawford Electric and post-game fireworks. Tickets on sale now. Call 358-2846 or jackshrimp.com. Affordable family fun.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau of Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. And if you're even thinking about taking a look at a new car, you need to go see my friends at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. If you haven't seen the new 2019 Hyundai Kona, head over to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville on Atlantic Boulevard and take it for a test drive. The 2019 Hyundai Kona was named the North American Utility Vehicle of the Year. It has enough room for the family, but it's not too big. It really is the ideal crossover vehicle. If you don't need something as big as a crossover or full-sized SUV, check out the new 2019 Hyundai Elantra sedan. It's a very slick car, and it starts at only $17,985. The manufacturer also offers $2,000 cash back on select 2019 Hyundai Elantras, but the offer is only valid through April 1st. The Hyundai you want, the service you deserve, all with a 7-day money-back guarantee. Schedule a test drive at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville.com and make sure you tell them Brent Martineau sent you.
The 2019 Harrell and Harrell Performance Studio is here, and it's better than ever. It's your chance to meet the personalities on the new ESPN 690. Sit in the front row and ask your questions to athletes in town, sports analysts, and experts. You'll be able to see them in person. It's going to be the best year yet. So listen to ESPN 690 for your chance to win your way in throughout the year. It's the Harrell and Harrell Performance Studio, brought to you by Harrell and Harrell.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
From the NBA to the NFL, we've got you covered. The worldwide leader in sports. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. You're listening to Action Sports Jax with our friend Brent Martineau on ESPN 690.
Best tight end of all time, Rob Gronkowski. Agree or disagree? Austin Lane says, yes, I don't know if I can get there. Brent Martineau along with Austin Lane, Justin Kuzart. Kuz is in the house. Kuz, you have a good weekend, man?
I did have a good one. Got to go to the pool, relax a little bit.
Gosh, what a life you have, man. What a life at 26.
Chilling in the cut.
27, whatever it is.
Here's the thing, is I missed out on the March Madness game, so it was a little disappointing weekend for
you had
me.
Your buddies surprised you and then ruined you couldn't. I saw Austin sitting all alone. Twitter had him.
And don't worry.
By the way, that was a dangerous spot to sit
for Twitter because
I was on there too. In the end zone?
Yeah.
You're everybody. You better not pick your nose or anything.
No,
people are going to see.
Trying to drink a beer or something, like sneak it in. No, man, I was on my best behavior, obviously, and I actually made some notes from that UK Wofford game. I have a little bone to pick with UK, actually, but we can get into that a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a Big Blue Nation. That's a bold statement.
More like Big Boo Nation.
My only problem with Big Blue Nation was I didn't see Ashley Judd there.
Trust me, I was looking too. Yeah, I didn't see her. That's the kind of reason why I went in the first place.
How old is Ashley Judd now?
Old enough to party. That's all that matters, man. I have no idea.
So glad you had a good weekend, Kuz. Kuz, where would Rob Gronkowski, would he have been good at basketball? Could he have played in the NBA?
Probably. He's just a pretty big, solid dude. So I feel like, if you
Charles Barkley type?
Yeah, I feel like if you have that solid foundation already and you have someone that kind of just is athletic like that to begin with, you'd have to imagine. It's kind of like how everyone said LeBron James would be a good football player, right?
True, but I feel like with basketball, you need a little finesse.
You do.
And while Gronk, like I said, is probably the best tight end to ever do it, I feel like finesse wasn't really in one of his, his top skill
Was
sets.
Shaq like a big finesse guy,
Not the free throw line, but Shaq also Shaq did have finesse to his game. Obviously he's known as a diesel, so he used his power to his advantage, but he also had some pretty good post moves that were more finesse-like.
All right. I'm going to give you Gil Brandt's 14 greatest NFL tight ends of all time. Now, this is from about a year ago.
So this isn't before Gronk won another Super Bowl? Or this is before Gronk won another?
Okay. He hadn't won yet.
Okay, gotcha.
But still, Gronk was Gronk at the time. But what my point of this is going to be, there's not a lot of great tight ends in NFL history. They've been playing football for quite a while.
Yeah.
But tight end, you're going to see a lot out of this era, the Travis Kelce's of the world, the Gronkowski's of the world. I don't know where Jimmy Graham kind of fits in there, but we might be looking at a Greg Kittle, or we might be seeing a Hawkinson or a Fant, or we might be looking at these kind of guys, Greg Olsen, as some of the best tight ends of all time, and
Gates.
They might have Gates.
There's still Gates in there too.
They've all played in the last 15 years. Maybe Ertz gets on that list, So he has Jackie Smith at number 4. I don't know why he went 14, probably because he couldn't find a 15th. Jackie Smith at 14. He had Greg Olsen last year already at number 13. So that echoes my point, okay?
Yeah.
12th is Russ Francis, former New England Patriot and San Francisco 49er. Shannon Sharp at 11, which I thought he'd be higher.
I thought he was going to be higher, too.
Yeah, I thought he would be higher. Ozzie Newsome, 10. I thought he'd be higher.
Wow, okay.
But
I'm trying to think who. Okay, keep
going.
He
was only voted to the Pro Bowl 3 times, first team All-Pro once. I say only, but that's only. He is a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Charlie Sanders played for the Lions in the 70s. He is at number 9. I can't speak to Charlie Sanders. Antonio Gates at 8. I thought he might even be a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, first team All-Pro 3 different times. Obviously, he hasn't won big, but 111 touchdowns is pretty darn good. Mike Ditka gets in at number 7. Gronkowski on this list was number 6. Again, this was a year ago. Dave Casper at number 5. And Jason Witten was 4. Gronkowski's better than Witten.
Yeah, and the article's lost all credibility.
Well, no, it's not. It's Gil Brandt, for crying out loud. He's credible. He's a Hall of Famer. But you can put the guys in whatever order you want. I'm just kind of listing the guys. Yeah. John Mackey, that's one people forget. Mackey, I think, would get a lot of love all around. Kellen Winslow at number 2. And that, to me, you say tight end, and Kellen Winslow and Tony Gonzalez come to mind first.
Well, Kellen Winslow changed the position back in that day.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the Travis Kelce or like the Gronk was back in that day, which says a lot.
Well, and San Diego changed, right? That was Fouts, and that was that offense, and they changed the way the game was played, really, in the early 80s. And then Tony Gonzalez, number 1. Gonzalez he played forever. He has all these receiving yards and receptions, 111 touchdowns. So my point is, I still would say, I think Gonzalez because of longevity and production. I do think Kellen Winslow because of what you just said, too, changing the game. The next guy that does come, and again, I will not speak probably intelligently enough about the Mackeys of the world and the Dave Caspers of the world. Even Ditka, who's a great personality, but I view him as a coach, not as a player. So this is a little unfair for little young 41-year-old Brent Martineau to decide on those guys. But at least in this modern day, comes to mind Tony Gonzalez, even Kellen Winslow, and I do think of Antonio Gates. I didn't really think of Jason Witten in that conversation, but you should think of Ozzie Newsome in that conversation for sure. And I think that's where Rob Gronkowski fits. He fits in that handful of guys, and he does have probably one thing that a lot of these guys will not be able to say, and he played with Tom Brady. So he's playing with the GOAT.
Yeah.
You know, he is. That's bottom line. He's playing with the GOAT. If you're going to argue against him, he's playing with the GOAT.
Okay, well, let's look at this, though. So Jerry Rice has the most touchdowns of any player in the NFL history.
Yeah. Played with Joe Montana.
Guess what? Jerry Rice played with Joe Montana and Steve Young. Those guys are pretty good. Do you mean to tell me if Jerry Rice played with Don Majkowski from the Green Bay Packers, he would be having the records? Probably not.
That's a hell of a throwback quarterback right there.
Well, you got to remember where I came from. Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, man. The Magic Man.
Now, I have a question about a tight end that actually got me into football. Where do you guys put Chris Cooley?
I mean, I get it because he's from Washington.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. Sorry, Kuz, probably not going to be top 20 for me.
All right.
Gil Brandt, number 15. That's what he was. He's number 15. But, all right, I will ask you this. If I say Jerry Rice, don't you think Jerry Rice almost helped make Joe Montana more than Joe Montana helped Jerry Rice? Joe Rice.
But can you say the same thing?
Or is it peanut butter and jelly?
Well, can you say the same thing with Gronk and Tom Brady? Because that's
going to be my point.
Who's been the most essential cog in that the whole time the Patriots have won? It's been Gronkowski.
No, Brady has been the most essential cog.
I'm saying it's been Brady to Gronkowski.
Well, they won. How many Super Bowls have they won now? 5? 5. They won 2 Super Bowls without Gronk. With Brady.
Yeah, but see, my point is the fact that, okay, they've won 2 without Gronk. But, like, the Amendolas, the Welkers, like, those guys came and gone.
Yeah.
Gronk was always there. And granted, like, I get Gronk didn't go to the Super Bowl, but I think he played that season when he got hurt towards the end of the season. So he was still contributing to them going to the Super Bowl in the first place. So from that perspective, I feel like Gronk is the key cog in that's so, like, all that success. A, because he's a tight end and he revolutionized the position. Same thing with Antonio Gates. Jimmy Graham for a little bit. But, like, from those aspects of, like, Chris Hogan was there for, a couple seasons. Edelman's been there. But who's been the guy that's really been the most, I guess, efficient, who's been the go-to guy? And that's been Gronk.
I will give you this. I don't know if the Patriots win 3 Super Bowls in the last however many years without Rob Gronkowski. Mm-hmm. I will say that. Listen, this isn't me throwing shade at Gronkowski. I'm just saying, if you tell me Jerry Rice, I think he helped make Joe Montana and Steve Young. Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, he's undeniably the best receiver. Gronkowski, I think, is in the mix, and Brady was there before him. Brady's going to be there after him. And Brady won before him. Brady will likely win. I don't know if he'll win a Super Bowl, but he'll still win games after him. And they won at times without Gronkowski because he was hurt. So I feel like that's at least a notch in the resume that says, okay, don't forget he did have Brady, too. I mean, Brady's greatness certainly helped Gronkowski here.
It did. But getting back to, yes, he's been hurt. But you have to remember, like, and I get it. Tony Gonzalez played a lot of years. He's got a lot more yards.
He gets to inflate the numbers. Yeah, I understand that.
But was Tony Gonzalez the best in the run, run blocking? Probably not. I think he was more of a finesse guy, whereas the fact that Gronk was more of literally, he was a road grader. Like, if it came to running the ball, Gronkowski could, run through you. I remember as a defensive end, Joe Cullen, our defensive line coach in the Jaguars, used to always say, if you get blocked one-on-one by a tight end, you did something wrong, because there's no way a tight end should ever block a defensive end one-on-one. Well, there's 2 guys that that I played against or practiced against that they could block me one-on-one. One was Gronk and one was Mercedes Lewis. Yeah. And just Mercedes Lewis, I went against him every single day in practice.
Well, but bottom line is Mercedes Lewis has that reputation. I mean, he was underrated as a player because everybody got in love with the Gronkowskis and the Tony Gonzalez's catching all these passes. Mm-hmm. Mercedes wasn't doing that, but he was acting as the 6th lineman at times for the running game.
So from that perspective, those 2 guys you could put on anybody. Defensive end doesn't matter, defensive tackle, and they'll block them, okay? So I think Gronk's definitely got Gonzalez beat there. Now, we have to remember, yes, Gronk had some injuries. Like you said, Brent, he missed 2 Super Bowls. Well, why do you think that was? It was because of his playing style.
Yeah.
I mean, the Patriots asked him to do everything, whether it was catch balls, whether it was stay in pass protection, block the best defensive end, whether it was run blocking. I mean, the guy did everything, and in retrospect, that probably had a long-term effect on his career, and that's why he didn't have the longevity as Tony Gonzalez.
Here's the deal. Again, I think we could argue back, and I don't think Gronkowski's the best tight end ever. I'm just saying, I don't. I think those other guys, their resumes to me say just as much, if not a little bit more at times.
So do you think Tony Gonzalez is the best tight end ever?
I think I would put him first. Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I do. I think, again, you're not wrong in saying, like, Kellen Winslow, Gonzalez to me, and Gronk kind of changed the game a little bit of how you – I mean, Gronkowski, you needed two guys to defend it. Travis Kelce is this modern-day Tony Gonzalez, right? To me, he's the reason Zach Ertz and Jason Witten are focal points of an offense. He helped change the way the tight end is used, and that's why we're going to see a lot more of them, by the way, hopefully in Jacksonville with Hockenson or Fan. But I do. I probably would. I mean, that's a lot of years. It's a lot of yards. It's a lot of touchdowns. It's a lot of receptions. And he was hard to defend. I mean, if you were going to tell me that, hey, he just racked up numbers because he played a long time, and there are some guys that do that, by the way, but he was hard to defend, so much so that I probably put him and we should probably have two categories. I think you might be right. The dual threat tight end and this modern age tight end where you just go out and catch passes.
From the tight end perspective, I'm sticking with Gronk. I mean, listen, I understand that stats are there for reasons. So, yes, Gonzalez had a lot more yards, but give me Calvin Johnson's numbers compared to Anquan Bolden's numbers. I guarantee Anquan Bolden probably has a lot more yardage than Calvin Johnson. I would probably say by at least a couple thousand. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we can look that up at the break. But Anquan Bolden, I guarantee, has a lot more yards right now than Calvin Johnson. Does that make Anquan Bolden a better receiver than Calvin Johnson?
No.
Absolutely not, because Calvin Johnson was a game changer.
But Tony Gonzalez wasn't like that, is my point. It wasn't just he was an okay, like he was above average and really good. Anquan Bolden's really good above average, never in consideration for greatest receiver of all time.
I understand that, but that's the problem. We put like the stats with the most yardage and whatnot. Yeah, of course Gonzalez had the most yardage because guess what? Gonzalez played the most. Like he played the most years. I mean, if Gronk could stay healthy, if he had 5 more years left, then let's see where the stats are. But unfortunately, the way Gronk played, what the New England Patriots asked him to do, it was never going to happen. So from that perspective, being a run-blocking tight end, being a guy that had to stay in pass set, being a guy that was a red zone threat and a receiving threat, I'm rolling with Gronk all day.
A little bit later on, we're asked, by the way, on social media and on Facebook and YouTube, chime in. And you can also give us a call, 904-362-9901 all afternoon. Is Gronk the best? Simple. Is he the best tight end of all time? We'll talk a little bit more about it. And I want to get into the personality and what kind of tight end he is. Will we see another one like him anytime soon, despite we see the tight end more involved in NFL offenses all the time? But coming up next, got to get back to the bracket. How's your bracket doing? And can Florida State win it all? Next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And 2 Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
It's time for some straight talk. Picture this. Your favorite team is playing. You're streaming the game. 10 seconds left. Your team shoots. Oops, your data runs out.
Look, don't let that happen. Switch to Straight Talk Wireless and get 25 gigs of high-speed data, all on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks.
Join Team Straight Talk and get unlimited talk and text plus 25 gigs of high-speed data for just $45 a month.
Straight Talk Wireless, everything for less, only at Walmart.
First 25 gigs at high speed, then 2G. See terms at straighttalk.com.
When you fire up a John Deere 1 Series tractor, you can tackle the job without wrestling the attachments. Hook up everything from a front loader to a drive-over mower deck in no time. So you can haul gravel, cut grass, or do any job in between. Because when things just click, work just gets done. And now get a 1 Series for just $99 a month at your nearest participating John Deere dealer. Nothing runs like a Deere. Run with us. Search John Deere 1 Series for more. 0% annual percentage rate. For additional cost information, please call toll-free 855-633-2315.
Now you have a bunch of young guys who found out we were all on the trade block. Now that trade didn't go through, so I agree with Magic, and you got to put on your big boy pants, but we all don't know how everybody's going to deal with it.
Go Lick and Wingo, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 690.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30. Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
All right, be honest. How bad's the bracket? Kuz was all excited after day one, although he totally dismissed Weber. Weber was ahead of him. We got 5 people basically on the bracket for ESPN 690. You and I and Kuz, and there's Weber right there. Gosh, guy just won't go away. And then Marcel Robinson, I think he did a bracket downstairs. So Kuz was so excited after Thursday. He's like, yeah, I think I'm beating everybody. Everybody. Well, everybody's like 4 other people, first of all. And secondly, you weren't beating Weber. So where's your bracket at, Kuz?
I'm still top 10.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm 9th place right now.
9th place in the bracket. Now, you can't win. You're ineligible. But still, bragging rights are very important.
Yeah.
Where am I at, Kuz?
104 points.
Do you know? Can you see the rest of us?
Let me try.
Are you even circling and crossing out your bracket?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
you
person
are?
in the lead, Abby 0816, has 122 points.
Burner account. I like it. It's my burner account. No, I'm kidding. Do you not see my name on there, Kuz?
I don't know if I can see you guys. It just looks like
whatever.
I know. We got to tell Nick. Shouldn't we be at the top of the page if you're trying to beat us? Show us how bad that we're doing.
I was going to say, it might be, you could just be all the way down there.
Well, we could. Well, I have lost, I went 25-7 in the opening 2 days.
Yeah.
And now I've lost 7 Sweet 16 teams.
Ooh.
But there's good news for me. I only have lost 1 Elite 8 team.
As have I. We're kind of in the same boat right now. I lost 6 of my Sweet 16 teams. A little alliteration for you folks. And I have 1 Elite 8 team that's not in right now.
You're taking this broadcasting thing to new heights, by the way, throwing alliteration out there, too.
Oh, yeah. Big
Very
word.
nice.
Yeah, it was one of the first big words I learned at Murray State. Shout out to the Racers. Alliteration.
Hey, alliteration in broadcasting is fantastic.
Yeah.
Utilize it whenever you can. Give me your Final Four again.
Duke, Virginia, UK, and the Zags. Gonzaga.
Yeah, so you went chalk heavy. I mean, other than two in Kentucky.
Yeah,
but I'm saying that's
paying
good.
out well so far,
It's good. Like I said, my wife has 15 out of the 16 in the Sweet 16.
That's super impressive. I'm going to be honest, really too. Good. Watching that Duke game last night, I was kind of cheering for Duke to lose. I mean, even though it would have cost me a bunch of money and whatnot, I just wanted to see chaos. I love chaos when it comes to sports.
Yeah, me too. And that's the game. That is a great wrestling of internal bragging rights and competition, and then just kind of either rooting for the underdog or people who just hate UCF right now so much.
Yeah.
I love the landscape. First of all, UCF fan, FSU fan, Gator fan to a point. Remember, I'm not any of them, but you all have a complex, and you got to stop. FSU fan not getting enough love because they're good at basketball or because Gators get more love. Just live in the moment and enjoy the ride. And then UCF fan last night. I mean, you couldn't make a comment yesterday on Twitter during that game without UCF fan coming at you. And I went, hey, I'm on your team. I've been a supporter of UCF. I feel like they're good, like they're getting good. If you put them in the Power 5 in football, I think they could compete with anybody. So I'm on your side, UCF fans. Relax. Take a breath. That was a fantastic effort. I will say this about that game. This is what when you almost beat Duke, you usually have to play flawless if you're a 9 seed. Man, they played far from flawless. Now, Dawkins was sensational. He hit like everything. But they were so careless with the basketball at times in terms of simple passes, some of their decision-making, and then obviously in the end, boxing out. So they did not even play what I would call their best game, and they still almost knocked out Duke. What that game showed me is, first of all, you love that game for the tournament. I mean, what a finish it was. You're just hanging. I don't care if you're a Duke fan or UCF fan or no fan. You're just kind of hanging with every second and every shot and every bounce in the last moment, or every roll, I should say, as it fell off the rim. But that showed me that Duke's not winning at all. If you have Duke in your bracket, Duke's not winning at all. UCF did not play a flawless game. They are a good basketball team. They are not an elite basketball team like the top 2 or 3 seeds in this tournament. They had a good game. Dawkins had a tremendous game. He carried them. They hit big shots when they needed to. But I'm just telling you, folks, if you have Duke in your bracket winning it all, to me that showed Duke is not winning it all. They're not good enough. They are just not good enough to win it all.
We'll see.
Zion Williams had 32 points. It's not like he had a bad game.
Agreed.
Reddish had a very good game. They shot the ball well from three-point land, which they don't usually do. And they still just beat UCF by 1, and they got really lucky in doing so.
You know what I was thinking during that the UCF Duke game? Because, UCF's going to lose some guys next year, right? They're not going to be the same team that they were this year.
They're going to lose a 7'6" guy.
So one could assume that maybe that they go to the NIT next year. Do you think if they win the NIT, do you think there's voice for maybe saying that if they win the NIT that UCF could be a national champion just because they won the NIT?
I think
because that's what I see fans doing from UCF.
I love that stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
I was so rude. Listen, I like Duke. I don't mind Duke. I'm not like a Duke hater. I think it's good for the tournament for Zion Williamson to keep playing. I think that would be, it's a benefit. Although I will say this, I did not think they officiated that game like they wanted Duke to win. I don't think UCF got I thought they both got a couple of calls.
Yeah, there's a
and
couple
both
calls.
didn't.
Yeah.
But it did not slant. Again, I'm a neutral observer here. UCF fan will think you got screwed on calls. Duke fan will think you got screwed on calls. That's just the way it goes. I'm telling you, I'm a neutral observer, and I was not like, oh, the NCAA wants Zion to win like I thought they would. I thought they'd want to keep Zion in this tournament, and I did not see that yesterday at all. But I was the Gator fans to me are the best because Gator fans – the football has been down so until this past year. Mm-hmm. And so with UCF rising up a bit, claiming national title, going undefeated, stealing the spotlight, really. I mean, UCF, you could argue at times in the last 2 years were the best football team in this state. You could make that argument. And I just felt it with Gator fans. They were just like, please don't let them win this game.
Yeah.
Because they knew the fan base for the next 3 days
would be a changing of the guard.
Absolutely relentless.
Would have been a changing of the guard.
I wanted to see it so bad.
Yeah.
I just thought the comical nature of that with UCF fan and Gator fan and other fans in the state of Florida just closing their eyes and hiding for a week would have been really, really funny.
And another thing I took away from that Duke UCF game was the fact with Coach K. What a class act,
Yeah.
And
don't put that on Twitter, by the way. A lot of people don't believe that.
Okay, great, Brad. Hey, no, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because people are saying, well, it's because they won. Well, let's get this story. Let's go back to 2014, Duke versus Mercer. I had one of my good friends I grew up with named Jacob Gowan, who was a starting forward of that Mercer team that beat Duke. I mean, I was watching, obviously the whole game because I was my friend playing. So it was cool when Mercer beat Duke. And I remember I sat down with Jake after in the summertime when everything was done and we were both back home in Wisconsin and whatnot. And he told me that after that Duke game, when Mercer beat him, Mercer's celebrate and dance around, as they should have. It was a 12-14 upset. I'm sorry,
15-2 upset. 15-2.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Duke was a 15-2. Mercer was 15.
I'm sorry, 15-2 upset. And after that, they're celebrating in the locker room. Who came in to congratulate him and like literally shake every single one of those players' hands? Coach K. Coach K literally gave a speech to his players, the Duke players, after the game. I'm sure they were, pretty upset and bummed. And then after that, Coach K came in the Mercer locker room and congratulated all those players. So it's not just the fact that, Duke won, so he was, being congratulatory. No, even when Duke loses, Coach K is a class act. So you can't hate on the guy.
I don't disagree. Now, listen, I spent the weekend killing Tom Izzo and people like that. And not, again, I'm not getting into the Izzo stuff again. But I just think the culture in college basketball and college football just exudes ego and coaches, and it's all about me. And I'm not saying Krzyzewski doesn't have a part of that. He might have some of that. I don't know him. I haven't been around him enough. But I just thought in that moment, and I know that story you're talking about too, and I think it's a lone story. I think he's done that in the past. Because he understands his place in the sport of college basketball. That means just as much as beating Duke that he went into that locker room and congratulated them. People still tell that story, and they'll tell it until they're 75 years old. And so I really thought he captured the game right after very well. And so from that standpoint, I even tweeted it too. I said, I thought that was really classy. He did not. He said, listen, I've been unlucky in the tournament, and I've been lucky in the tournament. We just got lucky. And what a job by Dawkins. And obviously they have a close relationship. I just thought he played it perfect. He did not say, hey, listen, our guys did a great job. We really rode Zion and Reddish and Barrett. But you've got to give it to them. And he did it at halftime, too. He said, obviously, Johnny Dawkins worked too hard on our staff and taught his son Aubrey because, he gave them credit. And I think that's a cool thing when you can do that as such an ambassador, really, for the sport. Like him or not, like Duke or not, you can't discount that Krzyzewski is a big ambassador for college basketball. And I like that he did that to UCF in that moment. I thought that was really good and really classy.
Without a doubt.
One other thing, I find myself, I don't know if this is a soft part of me, but I want to see the post-game handshakes more. Why don't they do that?
Brent wants participation trophies.
That's not a participation trophy. I want to see that embrace. I want to see Dawkins and Krzyzewski.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the Wofford and Kentucky embrace after the game. What did Calipari say to those kids? What did he say to McGee? The TVs need to not go right to the desk and then not to go right to break. They got to show that. I want to see that.
There's a lot of feeling and emotion in those kind of moments that should be broadcasted. I agree with that.
All right. Hey, coming up next, we talk a little hardball. Matt Dendecker, remember that name? He joins us next on ESPN 690.
It's Golick and Wingo.
Hall of Famer Tony Dungy.
Rooney Rule in place. A lot of people say it's not working. What's going on with this, and what could be the remedy for this?
Ron Rivera, minority defensive coach, has been to a Super Bowl. Mike Tomlin, minority defensive coach, has won a Super Bowl. Anthony Lynn, minority running back coach. So that just kind of echoes my point. It doesn't have to be quarterback coach.
Golick and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Hey everybody, this is Brent Martineau, family owned in Jacksonville for more than 40 years and fresh ingredients every day. That's what Renna's Pizza was built on, and that's what Renna's Pizza delivers. A menu to satisfy the entire family. Fantastic pizza, fresh salad, and Italian favorites like stuffed shells. There's a Renna's Pizza near you. Marsh Landing, Bay Meadows, Argyle Forest, San Jose, and the newest location in Neptune Beach. Be a part of the family today at Renna's Pizza.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martin of Action Sports Jax. Many of you know by now I'm a huge advocate for Hyundai vehicles. We actually drive a Hyundai in our family, and if you're in the market for a new vehicle, take it from me. There's no better place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle than Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. The car buying experience should be smooth and seamless, and that's the experience you'll get from my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. Take a look at their specials and incentives at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. All you have to do is click the Specials tab, and you can find specials and incentives for new Hyundai vehicles. One thing you don't have to worry about at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is being haggled by a salesperson. Their sales staff are pros, and they're on your team from getting you into the car you want with the best possible financing plan. Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is second to none. Schedule a test drive at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com or at the showroom on Atlantic Boulevard. And tell them Brent Martineau from Action Sports Jax sent you.
From Daytona Beach to Brunswick, now ESPN can be heard loud and clear everywhere on one of the most powerful AM radio stations in Florida. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690. Now, back to Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, having some fun on a Monday here on Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. Brent Martineau, Austin Lane, Coos is in the house. Action Sports Jax Stuart Weber will join us in a bit. He's around 2 and bragging about his bracket, both Coos and Weber. Feeling pretty good about what they got. Coos, who do you have winning it all?
North Carolina.
North Carolina? Not bad. North Carolina looks good, too. They've really looked good the last month or so. Magic Whiteboard says
pretending to work is more stressful than actually working.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Not that I've really pretended much, but it certainly seems to fit Coos, doesn't it?
I was just going to bring up this story. No, Brent hit it right in the head. So actually, Coos has a little Game of Thrones story that he should probably quick share that he told me. And that's why
I don't
that's
know.
where the inspiration came. Well, edit it out. All right.
All right,
we
fine.
have kids listening.
I was watching Game of Thrones back when I was just a board op here in the Cox Media Group building.
Don't take that job lightly. Don't do just the board op.
No. But essentially, I was just making sure everything was running smoothly and didn't have too much responsibility on my hands. So I would watch TV shows, and Game of Thrones was pretty popular, so I was watching it, and some of the episodes are graphic. And when that happened, the president of the company walked in, and I could not X out of I could not X out of the video quick enough, to be honest with you, and I've been scarred and haven't been able to watch it since.
Love it.
Hey, and you still got a gig.
I don't know, man.
Somehow I didn't get fired because I heard stories and people did way less and got fired for that. So.
Hey, don't. What's the statute of limitations on that? That's a good point.
It's been at least 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you're all right.
I think I'm all right.
Man. You're golden.
I mean,
new
is the president still the president? Okay, new
he
president.
moved up. He's higher up now.
Maybe just stick to some cartoons, Coos, and leave the Game of Thrones at home.
Yeah, we'll watch something else.
Hey, you know what? Opening weekend Major League Baseball coming up. Opening day in baseball. Gotta love that. Hot dogs, Cracker Jacks. Take me out to the ball game.
Tim Kirchin, can't wait, man. I got my impression all ready to go again. Looking forward
You're ready
to it.
for Tim.
Yep.
Hey, we welcome in Matt Dendecker. You remember him, former Florida Gator, and has played in professional baseball really for, gosh, I would think the last probably 7, 8, 9 years. Time with the New York Mets, the Washington Nationals, Detroit Tigers, and again with the Mets. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Excited to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. We were just going over it a couple of breaks ago, sharing with Austin too. But what a roller coaster life it is, trying to get to the big leagues and going up and down and all around. What a ride it's been for you, huh?
Yeah, it really has. Going from playing at Florida, getting drafted, and those first few years are fun. I was a single guy, it was easy to travel. And then as life goes on, I have a wife, been married for 4 years now. I have a son that's 2 years old. And that's when things, start to change, when you realize, you're gone half the year, home half the year. And you got your family with you, and, it's stressful on them at times as well, and stressful on me. But at the same time, it's a great life to go out there and play a sport and to share those moments with them as, life changes and enjoy those moments as well.
You're from Fort Lauderdale. How'd you end up in Jacksonville?
My wife actually.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, we moved up here after we got married in 2014, and I actually like it up here. It's a little more laid back. Fort Lauderdale is nuts. Now I go down there, and it's like I'm good for a couple days, and then
it's Miami North,
ready to
right?
get back up to Jacksonville. And we live actually in St. Augustine, and it's nice to have a little bit more quiet, spread out, and I think it takes a little bit longer to get places, but I mean, I guess with the traffic in Fort Lauderdale, it's kind of the same. So I enjoy it up here. Not so much of a sports fan with the Jaguars. I'm still a Dolphins fan. So,
oh, sorry. By the way, it's better to be a Jags fan. Maybe.
Matt, you were drafted in the 5th round, was it?
I was drafted, 5th round.
Okay, so it's funny because I have a cousin who was drafted in I think the 12th round. So people say you're drafted.
You were drafted in the 5th round.
I was drafted in the 5th round,
NFL.
but it's a different sport though, and that's kind of my point. The fact that you say you've been drafted, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's awesome. The guy's got to be legit," and I'm sure you're legit. Don't get me wrong, but you said you started playing single A. How hard is it for that transition? Because when you get drafted, you don't just go to the bigs right away. You got to start small. And then single A, I mean, how hard was the transition to go to single A? Then I assume you went to double A, then triple A. I mean, what is that process like, I guess, physically, mentally, just because, I mean, you put a lot of hours in, and let's be honest, when you're playing single A, you're probably not making that much money.
Yeah, I mean, you get drafted, and I think a lot of people see you get drafted, and they think, oh, you're going to be in the big leagues the next year, and I'm going to watch them on TV and whatnot, and friends are texting you like, oh, let me get tickets for the Mets game. And I'm
Opening day, yeah.
I'm down in Port St. Lucie in single A. You can come down here and watch me play. But it's definitely a grind. I think people don't realize that there's a lot more than just what's on TV in Major League Baseball, and you see the minor leagues. You start out making maybe $1,200 a month or something. I think it's something around there your first year, and then it goes up maybe a couple $100 every year. But the first 3 years are a grind, especially for guys that aren't getting the signing bonus. You got the first round, second round. I mean, now it's a little bit more up to 5th round. I guess you're making some money, but guys that are in the 12th round or 20th round, they're not making that money to live off of, so they're kind of going paycheck to paycheck. I mean, you can hear stories about guys like 6 guys in a 2-bedroom apartment, and you're just kind of on the for the love of the game kind of thing, where you're just playing because it's what you love to do. And you got to get off to. I think the biggest thing is getting off to a good start when you're in pro ball as well too. You get off to a good start, you kind of ride that through the levels. I started well in single A and moved up quick to double A, and I think that helped me get comfortable with moving up through different levels.
What it is a crazy ride. I mean, to the point where you go back to 2014. It was you played in 54 games with the Mets, 53 games with the Mets. 2015, you played 55 more. But you're up and down, not even a full season. How many times throughout this whole process in the last decade you then like, all right, it's time to move on. All right, it's time to move on. Or has that fire just kept burning, and obviously you got the talent to be on the cusp of it. Do you wrestle with that? Have you wrestled with that a lot over the years?
I think maybe in the past year a little bit more than I have. Like you said, going up and down, it kind of wears on you a little bit at times. But I think, being so close and, getting a taste of it is kind of enough to keep you there, wanting to keep playing. When I was with the Tigers in 2017, I was actually out with one of my buddies that I was playing with, and we were like talking like, man, is this going to be it? Is this going to I don't know if I'm going to have another opportunity, playing well, but like there's not really a spot. So like it was that same night I get back to like the hotel, go to sleep. We're on the road, and our manager knocks on my door at like 3 a.m. Like I'm like, oh man, who's at the door? Like what's going on here? Like kind of scared me. I jumped out of bed, opened the door. He's like, you got to get your bags packed and get ready. You're gonna get on a flight to go to San Diego because you're joining the team over there. So those are the kind of moments you don't know when it's gonna happen. That's the thing with baseball. Like you don't know when it can happen. You play every night and someone can go down. I think it's just staying ready and. I mean, it's funny. You just never know.
How many times have you literally got the call? Like the call, you're playing in AAA.
Oh, man.
And you got the call like, hey, you're joining the big league club. I mean, was it all these seasons then you would have gotten that call?
Yeah. So
do you have any great stories from that call?
The last 6 years, from 13 till last year, I've been called up each of those last 6 years. So I've been up parts of the last 6 years, and last year and the year before, just once. And the years in the past when I was on the 40-man roster, when I had options left where they can send you back and forth, I think I probably have been up and down like 15 to 20 times. And
wow.
Throughout my career. So it was a little more difficult when you're the Mets were in Las Vegas and going to New York, the cross-country flight. But when the Nationals, it was a little easier going from Syracuse to D.C. But you never know. The team could be on the West Coast, so you just got to be ready to go and stay on your toes and just roll with it.
But is that out of a movie type stuff? I mean, especially the first couple of times it happens.
Yeah, but definitely the first time. It's kind of something you work for your whole life, and you finally get it, and it's just like you just got a rush of emotions. And I think I called my parents, called my wife, and. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like I would say I'm a baseball guy and never even sniffed even close to what you've done and wouldn't. But I would just imagine that would be like I'd have to gather myself if that happened. Like that seemed like it would be like one of those calls, be like, whoa. And then who do you call first, right? You got to make sure you call a couple like you just said.
Yeah, the first time we were in Colorado Springs, the first time I can remember, and it was after a game there. So on the East Coast, it's 1 or 2 in the morning. I called it was my fiance at the time, and she was sleeping. Didn't get through to her, and then I called my mom, and she woke up. She's up always, so I called her and talked to her, and then my wife called me back once she saw that I called. So it's just you never know at the time when it's going to happen.
Man, I have to ask because, obviously playing in the NFL like myself, and I've been cut a couple times, and mentally, man, it's one of the hardest things I ever had to go through, especially that first time with the Jaguars. Looking at you and, obviously you're still on your journey and you're still, you have big league aspirations and whatnot. Just, I guess, from the mentality aspect, I feel like baseball is such a mental game as well as a physical game. So, like, what do you attribute to just, having that strong mindset to keep on going, obviously, to keep doing the dang thing? Because, you've been up a couple of times, you've been down a couple of times, and I'm sitting here talking to you now, man, and I'm inspired just by talking to you because you're still chasing your dreams. So, where do you get that mindset from? I guess like what is it, like your family?
I don't know, really. I think just being a competitive person growing up, and I'm still a competitive person. I think it's that drive to, to keep playing. But it definitely does. It stings a little bit when you get that, when you're up in the big leagues and they tell you we got to make a move and send you down, and it stings, especially in the years past when you have been playing well, and you can play better at that level, and maybe you didn't get the opportunities. It stings, but I think family helps, faith helps, and just loving what you do. So I think that's what I'm sure you know what it's like. Just loving what you do, going out there. You got to make a lot of friends. You're playing with your guys, and I think that's the thing I miss the most right now. Not being in spring training was just the teammates and the locker room and that kind of thing.
Hey, don't go anywhere. Matt Dendecker stays with us, former Gator, former big leaguer, trying to get back up there. More baseball talk next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night, along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And 2 Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
With warmer weather just around the corner, it's the perfect time to tackle that brake job. Replacing your brake pads? It might be time to replace your rotors too. Our Duralask Brake Bundle has the proven tough pads and rotors you need to do the complete job. Started at only $99.99 and sold only at AutoZone. Getting the job done just got easier. Let us help you at more than 5,600 locations nationwide. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
And now, a quick comparison from Grasshopper. When a client calls, what do you want them to hear? Your personal voicemail?
Hey, you've reached Greg's cell phone. I'm away right now, obviously. Leave a message and maybe I'll get back to you.
Or something a little more buttoned up, courtesy of Grasshopper.
Thanks for calling Green Landscaping. To make an appointment, dial 1. For billing, dial 2. To speak with Greg Smith, dial 3.
There's no contest. Put your best voice forward with Grasshopper, the virtual phone system for small business. Try it free at grasshopper.com.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKB Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station. Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski has announced his retirement from the NFL, but his agent told ESPN today he wouldn't be surprised if he had a change of heart down the road. On Get Up, Drew Rosenhaus said it wouldn't shock him if the 29-year-old reconsidered, decided he wanted to play football again. Rosenhaus added it was him talking, not Gronkowski. Considering their depth at the position, the Patriots obviously have a need at tight end. ESPN's Adam Schefter explains how they'll look to fill it.
New England did not go out and add a wide receiver or tight end of note in free agency to go replace a guy like Rob Gronkowski. Not an easy thing to do anyway, but now the Patriots have to look ahead to the draft next month when they are scheduled to have 12 picks. We know how Bill Belichick manipulates the draft board, goes up and down, acquires more draft picks, gives up some.
The NFL's 100th season will kick off with the Bears hosting the Packers on Thursday night, September 5th. The Patriots open up their season on Sunday Night Football on September 8th. Their opponent will be announced when the full regular season schedule is released later this spring.
Go ahead. Stream all the big games. Because with Straight Talk Wireless, you now get 25 gigs of high-speed data for $45 a month. Plus, unlimited talk and text. All on America's largest 4G LTE networks. Straight Talk Wireless. Only at Walmart. First 25 gigs at high speed, then 2G. See terms at straighttalk.com.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Hey, we're back on a Monday. Hope your bracket's okay. Mine's not. Getting beat by my wife. And the Sweet 16. That's all right. We'll see what happens in the end. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Brett Martineau, Austin Lane. Coos is with us. Matt Dendecker, the former Florida Gator baseball player, former big leaguer. And I say former, but hopefully soon to be. He's not giving up on it just yet. We're going to visit with Matt a little bit more. I want to ask about the Florida Gators. They had a tough weekend on the baseball diamond and other big picture sports items, including Tim Tebow, what he thinks about that. But first, it's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and it's happy hour horn time.
Grab a drink, get a shot, sip your Star Tenders. You know the gig.
You know the gig, and you know what you can do it baseball style. Coming up Thursday, opening day in the big leagues. Opening day for the Jumbo Shrimp a week from Thursday. It'll be April 4th, so that should be a lot of fun. Baseball is here. Absolutely love this time of year. So we're visiting with Matt Dendecker a little bit more, and you were just telling us in the break as we go back. Boy, 2007 probably feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? You're getting old, man. But that's you were a Florida Gator. That was your first year there, and Kevin O'Sullivan came in your sophomore season. How about the job he's done with that program? Did you see it coming initially when you were there? Do you remember that time and being like, hey, this guy's got a chance to do this?
Yeah, I mean, I guess back then you didn't really think about where he's come from now, but they've done an unbelievable job, and they recruit probably the best in the country every year. They get great arms. I think that's their biggest thing. They get great pitching, and I've also had the guys that have swung the bat really well in the past years. But they've done an unbelievable job, and I'm proud to say that I was part of it from the beginning, and I think that we helped them as well, because that was his first time being a head coach, and I'm sure that's tough for him as well. So it's fun going back there. We have the alumni game every beginning of the year. We had that in February. It was fun going back there and playing against those guys and seeing everybody and seeing all the old teammates that I played with.
Yeah, pretty good stuff. And by the way, I would own that. Just say all the success, this was because of us. I mean, we were there. We were there at the beginning. They wouldn't have had this kind of success without him. You just made an interesting comment. You've played in the big leagues, 166 games, I think it is, in the bigs. And other people have said this. You could argue that it's easier to hit in the big leagues than it is in minor league baseball. Now, I've heard of that because guys in minor league baseball, believe it or not, even at the professional level, can be all over the place. Like you might get a guy that's throwing 97, but he's throwing 97 and you have no idea where it's going. They don't have the control of it in some of their pitches. So that's hard as a hitter if you don't really trust that it might not be at your head or somewhere else. So that's why I've heard that it's a little bit easier potentially to hit at the big league level, although I say easy like in quotes.
Like we can do it.
Like hitting is hard. Well, like hitting is the hardest thing to do in sports.
There's no way I can do that.
But because they're around the plate so much more and it kind of shrinks the zone and whatever, the control's better. But you kind of brought up a different reason that you thought it might be a little bit easier to hit in the bigs.
I'm going to say it's not easier, but I think it's easier to see in the big leagues. I mean, you got some of the best arms, and you're seeing them every night. There's no break from the best arms in the game. They're all in the big leagues, obviously. But I think being able to see the ball with the lights, you have these big stadiums with big lights, then you go back down into AAA, and it's darker in some spots. You got sun coming through center field area, and it's a little tougher to see. But I think on a day-to-day basis, the quality arms you see in the big leagues you can't see that anywhere else. So it's definitely harder to hit.
Yeah. That makes sense though. Yeah. About the lighting and everything else. You get the best of it all at the big league level. So it's going to be ideal. Yeah. If you will. You've been spending some time hitting over at the Data Cage, I believe. And that's a place in town where basically the analytics really come into play, and the analytics have infiltrated baseball in a big-time way. What's your view on that? And again, that kind of goes back to the big league stuff because you have more information at the big league level than you'll get anywhere else. They've got every single pitch, every single swing, every single whatever you want to look at. I'm sure at times probably too much information. But what's your view on all this analytics, and does it factor into how your approach at the plate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's taken over the game now, and you'll see it everywhere. Guys are talking about launch angle and the degrees of this and that, and I mean that's always been there. I think now it's just a little more awareness of it, and I think that's what's changing. And I think it could be a good thing. I think if you utilize the numbers and what pitchers are throwing in there, and for pitchers, what hitters are doing, the adjustments they're making, I think you can stay ahead of that and make adjustments yourself. So I'm really interested in like you said, I've been hitting over here with Tim and Mark at the data cage, and they do a great job to help you out with the numbers, and I think you'll see it a lot in the next 2, 3, 4 years. It's gonna be everywhere in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, and meeting lower levels. I mean, from college baseball,
100%.
maybe even high school. I mean, heck, you can put that little thing on the end of the bat, and it reads numbers, and it's how much you believe it, and it's amazing the data. So much so that a lot of us, I think, don't even know what to do with it or know what it means. What's the most important thing that you see? I mean, is spin rate is the popular phrase in baseball. Is that an important metric for you?
For if I'm looking at a pitcher and he has a high spin rate, that's going to play up. So if he's throwing 90 miles an hour and he has a high spin rate, it's going to seem like it's coming in harder just because the ball is spinning faster. I don't know if that makes sense.
And it stays up in the zone, right? It doesn't dip down.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to get the spin rate up and keep it up in the zone, make it tougher on hitters. And hitters are trying to kind of do the opposite, get some launch angle, they'd call it on the ball. They try to get the ball in the air more to do more damage. And I think at the big league level, the defenders are so good. They have the shifts now, and you hit the ball on the ground, you're basically out. So guys are trying to hit the ball in the gaps, hit the ball in the air, hit the ball out of the park, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that. But with that comes, I think, the rise in strikeouts. Pitchers are counteracting that with the high fastball, and I think that's why guys are striking out more.
Yeah, they're just trying to get you to pop up or strike out. Yeah. And I think Daniel Murphy said it to us like a year ago. We caught up with him at spring training. He's like, I don't know if he said 7 ground balls. Like if you hit a ball, 7 ground balls will make it through, or if he said 7%, I can't remember. Yeah, but it's something crazy. Like he phrased it perfectly. He's like, in my league, they catch the ball and throw the ball. Now it's different maybe in little league and in high school even, but in his league they make all the plays. Essentially, is what you're saying,
Matt. So without a season, like I guess with your training regimen, I mean, how much is it actually like strength training, weights, and stuff like that? How much is like cardio? How much is just like getting reps in the cage? Things like that.
Yeah, in the off season, I'll try to hit 2 to 3 times a week, and then train 3 to 4 times a week. So you kind of ramp it up as you closer you get to the season. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's kind of been with the unknown. It's kind of like, all right, how much am I going to do this week? And then you can kind of fall into the trap of like, I don't know, I'm not going anywhere this week, so I'll take off today. So that's probably been the toughest thing about this year. Is just trying to stay ready, trying to stay focused, and now that I kind of have a date on the calendar now, it's time to go.
Cool. Yeah, and so April 15th, you're going to start because you haven't got a call. You want to still do this thing, chase this thing, feel like you can play at an elite level, but haven't got a call yet. So you're going to go play in the independent league, it looks like, and that starts April 15th. That's right.
I'm going to go up to Long Island. It's the Long Island Ducks, and play for one of my former managers, Wally Backman. He was with the Mets. Back when I was there. And
I don't like that name from 1986, to be honest with you, as a Red Sox fan. No, I don't like it at all.
But he's a great manager, a great guy to play for. So I'll go up there, try to put together some good games, and hopefully I can catch on with the team and someone will sign me.
Yeah, well, you still what's it? You believe you can still do it, obviously. What is it? Has age become a factor for a lot of like the big league clubs, because you're 31?
I think, they're definitely. It seems like they're trying to go younger, and I mean, in my mind, I feel great. I can still run, I can still move, and I think just being close the last few years. I mean, the last 6 years I've been in the big leagues. If I was not getting called up, I'd probably be easier for me to like shut it down. But now that I'm still going up and down, it's right there, and I feel like I still have a little bit left to give.
All right, a couple more questions with you. Tebow, how are you impressed by this thing? What's your view on it? Does he make it to the big leagues this year, in your opinion?
I don't know if he makes it to the big leagues this year, but he played well last year. I think he was in AA and got hurt. I think he's made some adjustments along the way, and for a guy that took 10 years off between high school and pro ball, I think it's been very impressive what he's been able to do. I think it's just his natural athletic abilities kind of taken over, and now he's working with coaches and getting that fine tuning. I think you can kind of see him getting better every year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got called up just because what he's done in his career and everything, and he's definitely determined to do it. So I think you can't count him out in anything he's doing.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's been a fascinating story. I mean, I do think if he gets off to a good start, they'd be crazy not to bring him up for a little bit. I mean, you got to finish the storybook ending at least with a couple of games up there. But he was hitting really well before he got hurt last year. I mean, it looked like he had made some big time strides, and a work ethic probably not a problem with Tebow. All right, you've taken many bus rides. You've been at the top of it, where the chartered flights to and 5-star hotels. When people ask you at the end of the day, 10 years from now, or maybe they already do, 20 years from now, are there some? I mean, the stories must be endless from your time in the minors and the. I mean, we listen to like a story a day from Austin in the NFL world. But is there something that jumps out at you that you share with people? Maybe it was like a bus ride in Class A or anything that's just like, man, this life, it might not be as glorious or maybe it is as glorious.
I have a pretty funny bus ride story. So we were I was playing in Buffalo. It was in AAA in 2012 with the Mets, and we just finished. It might have been like a Thursday night game. So we had to travel after the game, which to Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Pawtucket.
It's a good 6 hours from Buffalo. So we finally leave the stadium. It's probably midnight, and we got 6 hours. We get there at 6 in the morning, and we're about halfway there, and we stop at a rest stop, and everybody gets off. There's a McDonald's there, and I have to go use the bathroom. So I go in to use the bathroom. I'm not going to get any food. I just need to use the bathroom. I have my phone with me, and everybody's in line getting food. So I'm like, I got a few minutes. I'm good. And then so I come out maybe 4 or 5 minutes later, and everybody's gone. I'm like, dang, that was quick. Everybody got their food from McDonald's is gone. So I walk outside, buses are gone. I'm like, what is going on? I'm in the middle
Kevin
of nowhere.
McAllister situation here.
I have no idea where I'm at. I'm in the middle of nowhere, halfway to Pawtucket from Buffalo, and I look down at my phone. I have 1% on my phone. I'm not even don't have my wallet with me. It left it on the bus. My phone's about to die. So I call my buddy on the bus, and I'm like, where are you guys at? Like, are you guys on the other side messing with me or something? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're on the bus. I'm like, dude, I'm at the rest stop still. What do you mean you're on the bus? So they're like 2 miles down the road. And they said the McDonald's, they wouldn't serve that late, that many people in the rest stop. I guess. So they all got on. And they didn't do a head count. And they're like, the bus driver says he can't turn around. There's like a two-lane road down in the middle of nowhere. So he's like, just start running on the side of the road, and we'll back the bus up. So I'm like running jogging for like 5 minutes. Finally, I see the lights of the bus backing up, and get on the bus, and it was a good laugh. But the best part of it is later on that year, or it was maybe in 13 or 14, I got called up. And we were in L.A., and somehow Vin Scully heard that story and told it on air. So, like,
that is awesome.
My wife's always like, who's the guy that told the story of you getting lost or left on the bus? I'm like, it's Vin Scully.
Dude, you don't have to ever get to the big leagues again. You had Vin Scully tell your story. That's great enough.
That's a pretty cool moment for me.
Sprinting from at a bus, like sprinting at a truck stop. Like, that's not weird at all.
Now, I don't even care about the rest of the show. I want to go hear Vin Scully tell the story.
I know,
I want to go look it up.
I need to pull that up and try to find it somewhere. But yeah.
That's That's a great story. By the way, I don't know if you were, but I'm guessing you weren't like an 0 for 30 slump. They probably would have just kept going.
We need him.
Matt Dendecker with us, former Gator. Hey, good luck, man. Thanks, get back
guys.
up there, and that's cool. You're keeping it alive, and hopefully you go play well up there.
Appreciate
in Long
it.
Island, and we'll probably see you over at the Data Cage.
Sounds good.
All right, man. And stop in anytime. Love talking some baseball. Opening week in baseball. It all starts on Thursday. Matt Dendecker hanging out with us on ESPN 690. Back to your brackets. Back to a little NFL. Owners meetings, and we have the first game of the NFL season. It's out. We know what it is. We'll tell you next on ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
The best kept secret in tires is TireOutlet.com. Tire Outlet offers you wholesale prices with premium service. And most important, TireOutlet.com has always had a safety first focus. With locations throughout the First Coast, check out TireOutlet.com today.
Hi, everybody. It's Brent Martineau. If you received a letter from the IRS and cannot pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank accounts and garnish your wages. If this is you, make sure to contact J. David Tax Law, a local firm right here in Jacksonville, and recently voted the best tax attorney in Jacksonville by Folio Weekly readers, and also selected as an ultimate tax attorney by the Jacksonville Business Journal. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation. They explain exactly your options and how they will resolve your tax issue, and only trust an experienced and award-winning tax firm when it comes to representing you. The fastest way to get started is to call 904-507-4777. 904-507-4777. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away. Also online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. The number again, 507-4777, or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. When things go wrong, you need help to make it right. Call the law offices of John Phillips at 904-444-4444. John will be by your side as an advocate and as a friend. Personal injury, family, and criminal law. If trouble finds you, John Phillips can help. He is a board-certified expert in civil trial. Give John a call, 904-444-4444, or visit floridajustice.com.
Hi, this is Earl Ron, president of New South Window. New South is Florida's factory direct window company. We manufacture, install, and guarantee your windows for life. One company, one call. Our replacement windows are made to better enhance the energy efficiency of your home and stand up to Florida weather. New South Window, home of the ultimate Florida window for you. Made in Florida, for Florida homes, by Florida workers, because we know Florida weather.
Buy more, save more. Volume discount up to 30%. Visit newsouthwindow.com.
You look at the way Paul George is playing, and you look at Russell Westbrook. I don't think anybody can deny Oklahoma City may be the biggest threat to the Golden State Warriors.
The Stephen A. Smith Show, weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m. on ESPN 690.
Now, back to Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
All right, it was cool to have Matt Dendecker with us here on ESPN 690. Talk a little baseball. Nothing wrong with talking a little baseball. Love baseball season starting up. Had a good weekend of ball with the kiddo. A little softball coming up this weekend.
Okay.
What'd you do all weekend other than be spotted at the NCAA tournament?
That was really the big thing. I watched a lot of college basketball. Obviously, it's one of the best weeks of the year, really, if you ask me, when it comes to the NCAA tournament. But, yeah, I really enjoyed myself. Obviously, being part of the media now like I am, that serves its benefits.
Homework.
With free food and good seating. Well, yeah, the food, too, obviously. Brent, got to mention that.
I stole a couple of these things from the NCAA tournament. They had these little snack packs.
Yeah, you're just going to steal them.
I pocketed them.
Okay. Yep. I mean, I might have pocketed a couple bottled waters, too, so I'm not going to say anything. But, yeah, so from, obviously I didn't make the first game, the LSU Maryland game, which is unfortunate because it was a nail-biter. It came down to the wire.
Yeah.
Watch that.
nice four-step travel.
I know. Oh, come on, Brent.
Oh, that's okay. I love how with sports now we do that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, he traveled, but it was a game winner.
It was a game winner.
It's like,
it was really good for the tournament.
I mean, they're celebrating them. And celebrating the shot and over and over. And it's like, and don't even mention the travel. I mean, it's like Maryland must be like, hey, can we get away with a couple of walks too? Maybe we would have had 8 points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how they don't call the travel. I get like the stutter step, like a half a step. Sometimes it's so common now that it's hard to even tell if it's a travel because everything looks like a travel and they don't call it. That was 4 steps, man. I mean, that should not be allowed at the end of a game.
But let's be honest, if they would have called it travel, I mean, do you know like the chaos that would ensue just from that call?
Well, so what? I mean, it is. You can't. There can't be chaos
but it's
if it
traveling
was.
I mean, Brent, I know. I get it. It's just the way the world works these days when it comes to basketball. All right, so
you're accepting
it is
cheating.
what it is. I am accepting cheating. If you're not cheating, you're not trying, Brent. I say it all the time. But getting back to the UK Wofford game, that was the game I went to, and I went for a couple reasons. Obviously, I think it was a good matchup. Obviously, I wanted to see that. I want to see Big Blue Nation in full effect because you hear a lot of hype around it. They travel well, one of the best college basketball fan bases in the entire U.S. So I wanted to see that in full effect, and I also I want to see McGee as well because the guy's a sharpshooter, Fletcher McGee, and then I also wanted to see Tyler Hero, who's actually a Wisconsin guy who kind of has an interesting story. Do you know his whole thing, Tyler Hero? So he was actually the guy that covered Fletcher McGee most of the game. Did a phenomenal job. He's a freshman, slated to go in the draft, I think top 20. He hasn't announced it yet, obviously.
He's a fantastic player.
He's a great player.
Background. But by the way, I thought of this, speaking of Hero, how does a guy like that's that good get that last name? Like, that seems unfair.
Well, I mean,
it's
to be
like
fair, it's 2 R's, though. It's not 1 R. It's 2 R's.
It's Hero.
But it's still Hero, yeah. But a little background with him. So he's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, went to Whitnell High School. Obviously, in high school, he was a dominant. I think he averaged like 30 points a game, whatnot. I mean, just a stud, obviously. But committed to Wisconsin because, in-state, Wisconsin, and decent at basketball. Well, he actually decommitted and then chose to go to Kentucky. You got to understand, like, in the state of Wisconsin, you don't really get the top marquee players out of high school just because, Wisconsin, it's a good basketball state, but from a talent standpoint, there's better areas. Chicago, obviously, in Illinois, so Indiana. So when he signed, it was a big deal just because he was a 4.5-star prospect. A lot of hype coming out of high school. So Wisconsin was excited to get him. Well, he decommits. And listen, I have love for my home state without a doubt. But the way that he was treated when he decommitted, it was downright appalling.
Really?
To the point where at first, it was obviously like everybody called him a snake. They'll go to his games and have signs like you're a traitor. And that's fine. That's sports. And I'm cool with that. But then it got to the point where like his parents' house was starting to get vandalized. Their mailboxes got vandalized, and he actually got a couple threats at school, like where letters were sent, and he got death threats at school. And then he also got threats in public at a gas station. There was one incident where a guy threatened to throw him in traffic. So not a good look for the state of Wisconsin at all. So here you have this freshman opts to go to Kentucky. Everyone in Wisconsin was saying how you're just going to sit and ride the bench the whole time your first couple years. You could have started in Wisconsin, and he ends up getting his name called and had a great tournament game against, a player who everyone was talking about, literally shut him down 0 for 12 from the three-point line. So that was cool to see from Tyler Hero's perspective because he kind of gets a bad name in the state of Wisconsin, but anytime a kid can kind of shut the doubters up, I'm all for it. So props to him.
Yeah, let's say heck of a player. And they had a good defensive game plan. I credit the game plan that they had against McGee. At the end of the day, I think it was just an off day. I mean, I didn't see every second of that game, so I didn't see all 12 misses. But I saw a bunch of them, and they were a lot of back rim. Mm-hmm. Those shots are on line. So see what I say, when you have a lot of front rim, and you had a couple, so that's where I kind of give the credit to the defense because that means you're wearing out, right? Well, the back rim ones means you're on line, and you just didn't get it to rattle in. A lot of times. Unless it's severely back-rimmed. So he was on target a lot of those shots. Those are shots that he usually makes in his sleep or he'll make a couple of them. I felt so bad for the kid. I thought he was one shot away. When he was like 0 for 7 or 0 for 8, I was like, if he hits one, look out. Wofford's going to win this game because he is going to make 4 in a row after that. He just needed one to fall. And it was amazing that he didn't get one to fall. I love this tournament so much, but at the same time, those 48 hours for Wofford and for McGee it exemplifies it. You almost kind of hate it. He gets propped up on Thursday night because he would put on a show. Man, it was amazing, right? We were talking about it on Friday. Yeah. It was awesome to watch. It was fantastic. And then to go 0 for 12, and now you're the GOAT, right? Now you're like, you go from the hero to the GOAT. bam, in 48 hours in this tournament, and it kind of stinks. But like we always say, you got to enter the arena and you put yourself on the line and you take the glory with the bad. That's kind of what happens. But I felt for that kid, man. That felt, I was like, golly, he's a good player, a really good player, and he's going to have to live with 0 for 12. But did you see how he handled it after?
And I was just going to bring that up, Brent.
He was fantastic after the game. He put it all on him.
Listen, so in professional sports, not even professional sports, in any kind of sport, fighting, basketball, baseball, when things are going your way, it's easy to say, it's easy to have a post-game press conference. It's easy to give everybody credit and stuff. But you find out just what people are made of after a game where you go 0-12, or a game or a fight you get knocked out, or a baseball game where you go 0 for 5. You find out what those people are made of, because that's when you have two choices. You either put the excuses on and say, oh, I had an injury, or the refs kind of screwed me, or just it wasn't a good fight camp, whatever. You either put the excuses on, or you actually take, you look at yourself and you say, I messed up. I made the mistakes, and you don't blame anybody else. You just blame yourself. And that's exactly what Fletcher McGee did. And I think people like that, people that are willing to take self-responsibility when times go tough, I feel like they're a spoke in the wheel of progress, and I think that any kid that can grow from that and learn, he's going to be okay in life, whether it's the NBA, whether it's just whatever job he works at. We need more people like that in this world.
Austin Lane going deep on a Monday.
Get out the swim trunks. We're going deep.
We got Ballin' and Fallin' coming up. Gary, don't hang up. Hang on the line, Gary. We'll get to a little more baseball talk. You have a question about it. Ballin' and Fallin' on the way. And one final thought about Wofford and UCF. They are the same to me in one sense. And I'll tell you about that next on ESPN 690, plus some football talk along the way.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night, along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And two Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
The Bearded Villains of Jacksonville presents the Dirty South 4 at the Jacksonville Landing on March 30th. This is a DSV4 regional meet, and all proceeds benefit the National Kidney Foundation. Beginning at 7 p.m., there'll be a beard competition, including a ladies' division. Ladies, be creative and make a beard you'd be proud to show off. Admission is free. Get more information at bv904.com or send an email to bvjacksonville@gmail.com. March 30th at the Jacksonville Landing starting at 7 p.m.
The 2019 Harrell and Harrell Performance Studio is here, and it's better than ever. It's your chance to meet the personalities on the new ESPN 690. Sit in the front row and ask your questions to athletes in town, sports analysts, and experts. You'll be able to see them in person. It's going to be the best year yet. So listen to ESPN 690 for your chance to win your way in throughout the year. It's the Harrell and Harrell Performance Studio, brought to you by Harrell and Harrell.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martin of Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. And if you're even thinking about taking a look at a new car, you need to go see my friends at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. If you haven't seen the new 2019 Hyundai Kona, head over to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville on Atlantic Boulevard and take it for a test drive. The 2019 Hyundai Kona was named the North American Utility Vehicle of the Year. It has enough room for the family, but it's not too big. It really is the ideal crossover vehicle. If you don't need something as big as a crossover or full-sized SUV, check out the new 2019 Hyundai Elantra sedan. It's a very slick car, and it starts at only $17,985. The manufacturer also offers $2,000 cash back on select 2019 Hyundai Elantras, but the offer is only valid through April 1st. The Hyundai you want, the service you deserve, all with a 7-day money-back guarantee. Schedule a test drive at Jenkins Hyundai of ActionSportsJacksonville.com, and make sure you tell them Brett Martineau sent you.
Like, your lack of retention is a breathtaking thing that should be among the 7 wonders of the world.
I couldn't see the uniform through Devon's smoke.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz. Weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on ESPN 690.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brett Martineau.
Inbound out to Taylor. Jones is on him. Taylor driving in, banks it up. No, put back, in and out, and Duke survives.
How did that not go in for Aubrey Dawkins? You know, what's not talked about enough on that play, I believe, is the effort by Dawkins to put himself in that position. I mean, he came flying in. To me, it showed the determination, right? The want. And listen, everybody can say it. You want it. Sometimes it just shows up. And if you watch that play again, he comes flying in. He contorts his body, and it's just like, if I go crashing to the floor, whatever happens, I mean, I'm selling out here. And I thought you saw that on that play. Dawkins was so good all night long. I have no idea how that ball did not go in. It looked so good. And then in the locker room after the game, too, UCF, you could tell they had emptied the tank. I tweeted it this morning. If you were on social media, Johnny Dawkins in the locker room, which we're going to play for you in a moment. But you can just tell sometimes. And if you've played sports, you've been on a team or two where even in losing effort, you just know you emptied the tank. I mean, there's almost this level of satisfaction about, yeah, we lost, but I don't know much more we could have done. And, everybody strives for that. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, well, I always play 110%. Always play. Yeah. You don't, Houston, you know better than me. It doesn't always happen. But then there are those moments where everybody wants it so bad that heck, the water boy played hard yesterday for UCF. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It felt like that. You can see it. And I don't think that's a common thing in sports. I don't think you can always see that. It might happen in a state championship game. Might happen for a state champion wrestler. Might happen in the cage for what you do. But it happened yesterday on that court, I thought. And it happened Saturday here in Jacksonville with Wofford, too. I think both Wofford and UCF, to me, prove that this wasn't a fluke. They were good teams. I already told you what I thought about UCF. They did not play a flawless game. They made some silly mistakes, some bad basketball plays that if you do that against Duke, you usually lose by 20. Well, that wasn't the case. They were good enough to beat Duke, even without their A++ game. Now, Dawkins played an A+ game, but I'm saying in its entirety, their game was not A++. Their game might have been an A, but they still had another level to hit. And they were legitimately good and legitimately good enough to beat Duke to the point where I say, if you have Duke in your bracket win it all, you should be worried because Duke is not winning this thing. I'm convinced of it after watching that game. And the same thing I think can be said for Kentucky and Wofford. Wofford has such a good team. Coming out of Thursday night, it was, well, they can really shoot. They can shoot. I told you on Friday, I said, watch out for their big men. Mm-hmm. Their big men will be able to handle Kentucky a bit, or at least play with them. They have a good team. Fletcher McGee goes for 0 for 12, and they were tied with them inside a couple minutes to play. Who would have signed up for that? If I told you the day before or 10 minutes before the game, Fletcher McGee's 0 for 12 from three-point lane, you would have said blowout city.
Blowout, yeah.
Like these teams, although, again, Wofford's not a big name. UCF we don't really hear about in basketball. They were legitimately good. That's my point. They were legitimately good. And if they had just got one shot from McGee or that tip in from Dawkins, I mean, we are now talking about a couple of Cinderellas.
And, from both games, what I noticed is that the underdogs weren't scared. I mean, and granted, I know they always say, well, the underdog should never be scared. There's always a chance. And I get that. But the game that's saying, so from the Duke UCF game, I remember, I think it was in the opening minute, Zion came doing what Zion does, try to dunk it or whatever, the drop step, and Taco was right there, and Taco went right at him and blocked the shot. And that from I guess an energy standpoint, the UCF players jumped up and down a little bit. Listen, it was a block, but it was a big block because it showed that UCF wasn't going to be intimidated. They weren't going to buy into all the Zion hop. Now, don't get me wrong, dude still had 32 points
and 11 boards.
And 11 boards. I mean, he's great. But I think from that get-go, when Taco blocked that shot, it was just the fact that we're coming here to win. We're not just happy to be here. We're coming here to win. So I thought that was a big play. And obviously, too, I mean, the whole time, and Brent, you mentioned it, like when it comes to the bigs, it was evident that UK had the more athleticism.
Absolutely.
That they had far more talent, especially with their bigs. But Wofford's bigs played grimy. They played tough. They got in their face a couple of times. Like I remember one play. I forgot who the guy was from Wofford, but flexed when he blocked a shot. Yeah. I mean, they were having fun, but they were bringing an attitude too, and that's really cool to see, especially in the sport of basketball. When you're so close, you can see it on TV, as opposed to football, like I mentioned before, where guys are wearing helmets and stuff. Sometimes it's hard to see that emotion, from that standpoint, but. Those two games were really special to watch, just from the standpoint that the underdog was not backing down. And speaking of getting down a little bit, and listen, I kind of tease this a little bit. I'll say it right now. Hey, Big Blue Nation, quiet in the first half. I'm just going to say it. They were quiet. But when your school fight song plays, get your butts out of your seats, man. That's your school fight song. Brent, you wouldn't believe how many people... When the UK song was playing, I'm not sure the name of it, but I'm a big band guy, so I was following along.
Baritone sax.
Baritone sax, by the way. Wofford had a baritone sax, by the way.
Why didn't you jump in?
Because they're across from me, unfortunately. I couldn't get over their security.
When are you going to bring the baritone sax on and play a little solo?
Well, first of all, I don't have a baritone sax on me, sir. Those are $6,000.
Well, we can rent one.
Okay, let's do it. But getting back to the point where, hey, Big Blue Nation, if your school fight song's playing, or this is any university, I don't care if you're a student, a parent, or just a spectator, if you're a fan of that school and that fight song plays, get your butts out of your seats.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
They didn't do it.
Absolutely. They did not.
Hey, one other thing about your point, I think, in terms of not flinching, when Duke goes ahead by 7 or 8, or when Kentucky goes ahead by 5 or 6 or 7, you feel the onslaught coming. Like you can sense it, right? Well, especially with these teams that are just so good. Listen, the teams are better. 9 out of 10 times they're going to beat that team. But there's that one moment, and I thought it was cool in those moments where they responded. Instead of getting at 13, 14 points, all of a sudden it became 2 or 3 again. Yeah. And that's when you know a team's pretty legit. Pretty legit. Not just now, if you knock down a bunch of threes, it's a special night. Like if you watch the Oregon game last night, Oregon, UC Irvine had climbed back. And then the last 5 minutes, Oregon hit every single shot.
Just unconscious.
I mean, they just went unconscious.
Yeah.
And so that's like, all right, Oregon's probably a better team, but they also went unconscious in that moment. You know, so we never really, that's unique. I thought some of these other games where teams were down 7 or 8, then battled right back, and then down 2 or 3, 4, then battle right back. I thought that was cool, and that's the fun of some of these teams that we don't know much about. I want to play Johnny Dawkins, and then I'm going to get to Gary. So hang tight, Gary. But Johnny Dawkins in the locker room for UCF. This was pretty emotional in the locker room, talking about leaving it all on the floor. I think they kind of exemplified in the postgame.
I'm really proud because what you did this year, not just tonight, you did this year representing our program, representing our university. Couldn't be more proud of how you handled yourself on and off the court. And you guys have been terrific. And look, man, we always said it's going to end 2 ways when you invest like we invest. You're going to end, man, celebrating, we're going to end crying. We're going to end in tears. We end in tears. That's because we invested, as I said before, so much in each other and so much in what we were doing. I told you guys before, I love you guys. It's been amazing coaching this group. We got a lot of good memories, man. A lot of good memories. We've accomplished a lot of amazing things this year. And I know that doesn't, do anything for us right now. But at some point in time, it will. I know it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for a while. I've been in it before, and the same thing. We're proud of you guys. We're proud of the effort and the energy that you gave us all year long. Chad, what are we going to say, man?
Hey, family on 3, family on 3. 1, 2, 3, family.
By the way, those might have been a young man, but that's like a grown man crying. I mean, that was that was one of the forwards. I think I spotted him, and I'm like, I think that might have been him in tears most of the time. I think it was Colin Smith. I want to say, I don't know for sure, but I mean, you could hear it. He was just sobbing. I mean, and that shows. That's unique. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, you'll shed a tear or something like that after a big loss. I think you are so into it, but I mean. That was a tough one to get over for UCF.
That shows me that, they absolutely emptied their tanks. They gave everything that they had because, listen, when you break down like that, your body has nothing left to give. And it's almost like, they put so much effort, they put so much energy. Like you'd think maybe they could just will that basket to go in at the end, right?
Yeah.
Like you think it would just somehow bounce their way with their energy that they're giving. Unfortunately, it didn't roll like that. And I've been in a couple of those locker rooms as well. And the beauty with team sports is the fact that you never go through it alone. You know, like I guarantee each one of those guys that played in that game, they're devastated. I'm sure they're devastated, you know, to this day. But at the end of the day, like I said, you don't go through it alone. So each of those guys, I guarantee, will have each other's back, and far after college basketball is over, probably for the rest of their lives. So
almost makes you tighter, maybe in loss than it is in victory. It's kind of a weird thing to say.
No, it is a weird thing, but. You know, anytime I think you go through a traumatic event together, it only brings you closer.
Yeah,
so.
Hey, that's what sports, man. Sports are awesome because of that. Like that whole game yesterday, the moments after, the moments during, the last. I mean, it's why we love sports. I mean, it's genuine, it's raw, it's dramatic at times. It's pretty good stuff. We are digging deep on them. I mean, gosh, I got to get my scuba gear out here on a Monday. Gary, you're the man too. We're not going to cry over this call, but I appreciate you hanging on. We were talking a lot of hoops, so I don't want to get back to baseball, but I got to get you in because I don't want to keep you through another break. What's happening? Big league ball starting up this week.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Oh, I love this month coming up. You got MLB opening day, you got the Masters, and you got the NFL schedule release from the draft. It's going to be a great month.
That's a great month, and I feel like we just had a fantastic month.
Hey, Austin, do you guys in the NFL, do you get a daily stipend like they give the MLB players or anything like that, or are you just head in training camp?
So as far as training camp, depending on the contract, but every guy is going to get like a stipend every single week. So they call it like a workout bonus. Now, granted, some guys it's in their contract where it's a lot more, but every guy will get a workout bonus. And then we also get stipends when we go on away games, like in the hotel and whatnot, because usually guys go out to eat and whatnot. So we get a stipend as well.
Well, I figured they did. I don't figure they would stand for it if only MLB players and the rest didn't. I figured they'd be going, hey, what's going on? Brent, are you like Hicken? Are you a Mets fan?
No, I'm nothing like that. I'm nothing like Hicken, and I'm not a Mets fan.
You're not a Mets fan? Who's your team?
Red Sox.
Austin?
Brewers, baby. Obviously.
The Brewers. Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, I have them tattooed on me.
You're a Marlins guy, Gary.
Fan. I'm an Orioles fan. Many people say to me, "Why the Orioles?" Well, when I started following baseball, guys,
early '70s, right?
There were no Florida teams. There was no Marlins. There was no Rays back then. So,
listen, the Orioles have an underrated heritage and tradition in baseball.
I started following Brooks Robinson and Jim Palmer. Those were my guys.
That's not bad.
Class individuals, and then Ripken and Murray, and throughout all that. But I can't wait for opening day. We started in the Bronx.
Go get them. I'll be a Big O's fan to start the year.
Thanks, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for calling and hanging on. Gary checking in. Major League Baseball starts on Thursday night. All right. Do you care about a 100-year anniversary so much that Chicago and Green Bay open the season for the NFL? There it is, Chicago and Green Bay. I love these things. Like, I'm kind of a numbers guy. I'm a sucker for it. But I don't really care about Chicago or Green Bay, so I don't really care. The NFL, to me, has less of that. But 100th season, Chicago, Green Bay makes a lot of sense. 150th year, did I think they needed to move the Florida and Miami game? No, not at all. I think that was forced. But we're going to do a lot around the Jags this year. It's the 25th season of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think, to me, that's fun. That hits more home, obviously. It's right here.
So I'm confused. Was the NFL just tired of the Patriots winning Super Bowls? Like, all right, for opening night, giving you your banner, you guys had plenty of those. Let's go with the Bears and the Packers to open things up.
It's an underrated thing sometimes is the schedule when you're good because you play on Thursdays and Sunday nights and Monday nights, and, boy, the Patriots have navigated that well. Following when we come back on ESPN 690.
You know you love the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
We've got limited bathrooms here in the building, and sometimes on occasion, if they have a room empty, I'm allowed to go in between shows and use a bathroom to freshen up. I hear people coming in, and I'm just yelling, "Wait a minute!" But my plan gets exposed when I hear, "Hey, Dan Le Batard!"
The Dan Le Batard Show, now 10 to 1 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPNRadio.com.
You're shrimping the bag. Baseball is back. Jumbo Shrimp Baseball presented by Community First with tickets starting at just $5. Opening weekend is April 4th through the 8th. Don't miss opening day presented by Firehouse Subs and Rimrock Devlin with free magnet schedules courtesy of Crawford Electric and post-game fireworks. Tickets on sale now. Call 358-2846 or jackshrimp.com. Affordable family fun. Be a part of Stand Up and Stride, a fun family-friendly walk Saturday, March 30th at the Duval County Courthouse benefiting the Hubbard House. The Hubbard House is a full-service certified domestic violence center providing prevention and intervention to domestic violence survivors and their families in Northeast Florida. After the walk, enjoy motivational messages, a DJ and music, invigorating Zumba, and a family fun zone. To register, visit hubbardhousewalk.com. There is no cost to register, but tax-deductible donations are requested and fundraising is encouraged. That's hubbardhousewalk.com. The best kept secret in tires is TireOutlet.com. Tire Outlet offers you wholesale prices with premium service. And most important, TireOutlet.com has always had a safety first focus. With locations throughout the First Coast, check out TireOutlet.com today.
The spread and that college style offense. Listen, in 3 years, you might see the Big 12 be run by the NFL because it's the exact same kind of offense that's going on here.
Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau. Weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on ESPN 690.
This is Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau
on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, welcome back here to Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. A lovely Monday here in Jacksonville, Florida. Hope everybody's doing well. The Magic Whiteboard just said, one more deep conversation with Brent, and we'll all be scuba certified. Wait a minute, you're the one going deep, man.
I'm just saying. Well, Brent, you have something to do with it too, man. This is a team effort here. This is a team dynamic. So if I'm getting deep, so are you.
Have you ever scuba dived?
No, and I'm good. I don't need a scuba dive. Yeah, I'm fine.
You wuss.
Thanks. I don't do the ocean, man.
I was just saying, Austin, you seem like the guy that would do the cave scuba diving, like go in those deep crevices.
Nope. I would do I do like the shark diving in a cage. I'll do that. But as far as like being on the ocean, no, man, because that's not my home. Like, I don't understand. Like, listen, Brent, you know me. I'm a big snowboarder, right?
Yeah.
So I love it. It's one of my passions in this whole world. I love snowboarding. But I've never had the urge.
You're
going to
be in a snowboarding gang soon,
Brent. You can't. It's a club, first of all.
Yeah.
You can't call it a gang. And then that's going to be next year. Shout out to the Ravinos. What's up, guys? But getting back to what I was trying to say. So when it comes to surfing, I just don't do the ocean, man. Like, listen, the ocean itself can kill you. Like, those currents, like the riptide currents. Like, that's the ocean saying, "Can you please get out? Like, you don't belong here." And then let's go ahead and throw sharks in the mix and jellyfish. Nah,
see,
I'm good, man. Kuz, what, you're all about it?
I'm all, and like I was with you.
Sharks, bring it on.
I was without you. I was on your side until about 2 years ago when I learned to surf, and that feeling of just getting up on a wave and you're just flying. And dude,
sharks and stuff.
Snowboarding, you fall, it hurts. Surfing, you fall, you're most likely just going to fall in some water.
Kuz, from what I've heard, like if you go surfing, like the bigger waves, it actually crushes you down. Yeah.
Yeah, hold your breath, and then once it's gone, you just swim back up.
Hold your breath and just relax as the ocean's just pounding down on top of you. No, I'm all good.
I will say I'm a little surprised by this.
I know, right?
That you're such a wuss when it comes to the ocean.
I know. Well, I mean, I can tell you a quick story here. I had a bad experience as a kid. That's why I don't like the ocean.
Oh, really? Is this supposed to make me feel bad for calling you a wuss?
No, not at all. But I was 5 years old or 6 years old in the Bahamas, and I was on a little raft in the middle of the ocean. Not sure. I think it was an ocean. Yeah. Well, so I'm on this raft, and I'm a good swimmer, so I got out deep. My mom was watching me and everything, so it was cool. I look down and all of a sudden I see like some red water. I'm like, that's weird. Like there's red in the water. What is that from? And I thought I was bleeding. So like, oh, wow, maybe I scratched my elbow or something. So I start looking around. I'm like, no, nothing's there. And I look down to my other side and there's a giant head that's chopped off. And it was a shark. Well, it was a baby shark, but it was a giant head that's just chopped off, which means either somebody was chumming or something ate it. But the blood was like around me, so I'm like, okay, something else is in this water, and that's what kind of ruined the oceans for me.
Dude, you're like in Jaws.
I know, exactly, man. And I'm cool with it now, but like that was a really traumatic experience for me.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I grew up swimming.
Yeah.
Love swim. And I grew up in Rhode Island, so not far from the ocean. Mm-hmm. The ocean's a little different up there. I mean, it's cold forever, and the beach is seaweed and all that stuff. Anyway, but I'm.
Well, when you say it like that, like, yeah, let's go surfing, dude. Let's do it. I'm in now.
But I am not a big. I'm not a big ocean guy either.
Okay, cool.
I'm not. Now, I'm not afraid of it like you are.
Well, okay.
Or traumatized by it like you might have been.
So So one of my friends took my son like a boogie board, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Like where you, And so last year we did that in the summer, and that was the first time I was ever up in the ocean, up to my waist.
Really?
I actually did it. Yeah. So that was like a big step for me to be up to my waist in the water. So we'll see.
We're getting
I've
there.
never scuba dived. Have you scuba dived?
I've not. I've gone snorkeling down in Key West, and that was pretty cool. Saw some nurse sharks and stuff like that, but that's the most I've done. And my problem is I know you have to pop your eardrums so you can keep going deeper, but man, oh man, that really hurts. The pressure in your ears, man. That's what I didn't like.
Yeah, I've never scuba dived. I wouldn't mind trying it either, but
team bonding trip.
Team bonding.
ESPN 690.
Get over the fears.
Yeah, I guess.
Skydiving. Have you ever skydived?
No.
Would
no.
you?
So absolutely. So this sucks.
I have.
Because
I jump out at 30,000 feet, but I don't go waist high in the ocean.
Well, yeah, no, because when my friend's bachelor party we had in New Orleans, and that went skydiving, and then I go to the lady, and we called them the day before, so we all got situated. I'm like, oh, by the way, what's the weight limit? And she goes 225. I'm like, well, how does 240 sound? She's like, is that something you really want to question right now? Is going over the weight limit of skydiving? I'm like, no,
right.
probably not. You're right. I'm like, well, can I cut 20 pounds in a night? I'm like, probably not if we're drinking beer and whatnot. So I had to sit on the sidelines, man. All my friends got to go.
the rule everywhere?
I don't think so. It's just the rule at this place.
Okay.
Skydiving's fun. Skydiving's a good time. I have done it, yeah.
Have you, Brent?
No.
Would you
but
do
I would
it?
do it. I would do it. Here's the deal. I would do just about anything, if I'm doing it for TV or for some reason.
Yeah, what have you done what is it where you go down the side of the building?
Yeah, I scaled the I think it was the Wells Fargo building.
Yeah,
or
I
it might
think
have been
it
the
is.
old Everbank. I don't know which one. And I did that, and I was like, sure, whatever. I'm on live TV. If I die, I'm going to die on live TV.
I'll be a viral sensation.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Go out with a bang. So I've done some, I did the jet.
You told me about
Mayport.
that.
That thing was
insane.
awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't Blue Angels, but it was a notch right below, and that was crazy. But I'm not an adventure seeker kind of guy, so I would not probably go skydive and say, hey, let's go sign up and do it. Now, you could probably twist my arm to do it, but if they did something where they were doing a media ride for TV, I'd probably do it.
For sure.
It's just weird.
It's
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
that really tests my
it's weird.
I just love how you have to justify it by, that's part of my job, so I have to do it.
I have to do it
I
for
can't
work.
say no.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing:
it's
is
business.
I'm terrified of heights, but for whatever reason, when I was sitting on the ledge of the airplane, 14,000 feet up in the air, I was just chilling. I wasn't worried at all for some reason, and I really thought
probably
I was
drunk.
I was actually.
I knew it.
No, you weren't.
I knew
Few
it.
shots, yeah.
Does anything surprise you about Coos anymore, Brent? Obviously, he wasn't sober.
Well, here's the thing: is the guys. I used to work at a bar down in St. Augustine, and the guys from the skydive place came in, and we were giving them free drinks, and they're like, "All right, come by tomorrow, and we'll go up." And we got there, and it was all my work friends, so we took a few shots, and then we went in.
So was it a tandem deal?
Yeah, you have to do a tandem.
Is that how it is until you get your license to do yourself?
Yeah, you have to jump at least 50 or 60 times or something like that, tandem. And the last 10, they don't even do anything. You just have to do everything, and then you can go solo.
I got you. All right.
Let's go skydiving.
We're over. I'll do it.
All right.
If you want to do it.
Okay.
Hot air balloon ride? I've tried to do that.
Nope. No.
But I got canceled
cruise?
because of fog.
Heck no.
I went actually to do it, and it got canceled. Foggy.
First of all, why wouldn't you do a hot air balloon?
That's sketchy as heck.
Just wear a parachute. You're fine. Would you do it again, Brent? Was this for work or pleasure?
No, this one actually was. It was for our anniversary.
Okay.
And haven't fulfilled that yet.
Yeah, jeez.
That was 15 years ago.
Let's go and take a mulligan on that. Let's go and take a mulligan on that, honey. We'll eventually get back to that.
Yeah,
point.
we got our money back. Never went.
Lovely.
Still making up for that.
Fair enough. All
right, you got balling before we go to break, and then we'll do falling after that.
I feel like this whole conversation's been pretty balling. Balling, yeah. I got to get my balling day. Showtime. Anthony Pettis with his Superman punch off the cage to knock out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Listen, I said Stephen Wonderboy Thompson on the show.
Said he was going to win.
Yeah, well, if you watch the first round, I mean, Stephen Thompson was doing his thing. I mean, he's keeping his distance like he always does. He's a hard puzzle to crack. But Anthony Pettis, who's kind of bloodied a little bit, was taking some shots just kind of through the kitchen sink. And like I discussed, Stephen Thompson is known for having his hands down because he's a point-style karate fighter. In doing that, Pettis just kind of lunged back, jumped off the cage, threw a Superman punch, and it was lights out for Stephen Thompson. Shout out to Anthony Pettis. His first fight at 170, kind of took the fight out of nowhere. He's definitely the big underdog in that fight and came out on top, so props to him.
For a record like 15th time, I'm giving James Harden balling 61 points the other night.
Here we go.
No, but not only that, did you see him? He goes to the weight room after.
I saw that.
Hey, was he showing off, or is that not real?
He was showing off, first of all. Number two, we have to have the debate. Are we taking Giannis or are we taking Harden for MVP?
I like Giannis.
I like Giannis, too. Oh,
Harden's going to win, though.
We'll see.
Fallen coming up next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And two Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martin of Action Sports Jax. Many of you know by now I'm a huge advocate for Hyundai vehicles. We actually drive a Hyundai in our family, and if you're in the market for a new vehicle, take it from me. There's no better place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle than Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. The car buying experience should be smooth and seamless, and that's the experience you'll get from my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. Take a look at their specials and incentives at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. All you have to do is click the Specials tab, and you can find specials and incentives for new Hyundai vehicles. One thing you don't have to worry about at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is being haggled by a salesperson. Their sales staff are pros, and they're on your team from getting you into the car you want with the best possible financing plan. Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is second to none. Schedule a test drive at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com or at the showroom on Atlantic Boulevard. And tell them Brent Martineau from Action Sports Jax sent you.
They say it should be impossible for bumblebees to fly because their wings are too small for their bodies. But bumblebees don't care. They just fly. Bright Expectations is dedicated to helping our Florida residents with special needs and unique abilities find the resources, support, and inspiration that they and their families need to break barriers and achieve their dreams. Visit www.brightexpectations.com to start your journey today.
This message is sponsored by the Florida Department of Health, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Are you an aspiring small business owner looking to develop your own company? Are you already in business but needing to find ways to grow revenue by attracting additional customers? If so, then come speak to one of the highly trained counselors at SCORE. Since 1964, SCORE has helped more than 11 million current and prospective entrepreneurs through mentoring, workshops, and educational services. Schedule your free and confidential mentoring session at one of 6 counseling offices in the Jacksonville area by visiting jacksonville.score.org.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. One day after Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski announced his retirement from the NFL, his agent said he wouldn't be surprised if Gronk reconsidered in the future. Drew Rosenhaus on Get Up said if the Patriots needed him at some point and Tom Brady gave him a call, it wouldn't shock him if Gronkowski came back to play. Rosenhaus did add it was him talking and not Gronk. So New England's moving on, and while the team won't be locking in on a certain position for the NFL draft, it certainly needs help at tight end, notes ESPN's Mike Reese.
They have Steven Anderson. They have Jacob Hollister. They have Matt LaCaz and Ryan Izzo. I mean, that is not a very tested and proven tight end core. So they need a lot of help there, whether it's that direction or, free agency or trade. We know Bill Belichick's always sort of nimble with the way he builds his team and explores different avenues.
are Mike Reese, On Golick, and Wingo. The Bears and Packers will kick off the NFL's 100th season on Thursday night, September 5th. Patriots season opener Sunday night, September 8th. That opponent will be announced when the full schedule is released later this spring.
The all-new Wendy's Biggie Bag is here, and it's the total package. For $5, you get the bacon double stack, 4-piece nuggets, plus a small fry and drink. When you're looking for a giant meal without the giant price, grab the Wendy's Biggie Bag for $5. Price and participation may vary.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio. Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Oh, no. I have to bring it up to everybody's attention. That Coos really is in the lead.
With us, not the
Well,
whole
I know.
thing. But
Yeah,
yeah.
listen,
There's
I
still
don't
a
really
lot
care
of-
about everybody else. I
everybody
care
just-
about beating Coos and
Yeah.
you and Weber and
well,
I like
who's in-
Rich Jones. I don't like you guys, but I like Rich Jones. So if
Yeah.
he beats me, that's fine. Jake, okay, fine, Jake. But I don't like. I'm in last place.
I was going to say,
here.
at least I'm not in last place, though. That's, oof.
Weber, who do you have winning it?
I have the Duke Blue Devils.
Oh, shocker.
You might have heard of them.
Shocker.
Join us.
I have Duke beating Tennessee in the championship with Florida State and Houston, my other Final Four.
Ooh, I had Houston, too. So Gonzaga's big. This is a big one for me. I got no chance if Gonzaga doesn't beat Florida State.
Correct. The problem is that there's been so much chalk. Like, I went out on a limb with some upsets here in the second round. Like, I did really good in the first round. I got 29 out of 32, not to toot my own horn. I know the horn comes at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock.
That's right.
Toot away, though, man. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, there we go.
And so is this song.
Let's get some entrance.
Yeah, you
music
get
here.
some added gel to you're here today because of that.
That's it, Just got a haircut. Anyhow, but then I tried to get froggy a little bit and get some upset picks in there, and just nothing was happening. All chalk.
Yeah.
Other than, of course, Oregon, which wasn't even technically an upset in round 2 because they beat a 13 seed.
Wasn't even upset in round 1 beating Wisconsin. That was such a bad game for the Badgers.
Sure.
Oh, they looked horrible.
I was actually surprised Oregon was a 12 seed.
Yeah, they won the. It just goes to show you how bad the Pac-12 is this
I know
year.
it's bad, and I guess I shouldn't say surprised based on resume. I caught them a couple of times down the stretch of the season for whatever reason, just late at night. We were watching games, and they were a good team. Like, they were playing good basketball down the stretch. So it didn't surprise me that they made a little bit of a run. He's a good coach. They're underrated. I think that's back-to-back trips to the Sweet 16 for Oregon.
Yeah, when the Pac-12's on, I don't watch the game. I just watch Bill Walton.
Oh gosh, that's part of it. You're right. That's why I watch.
That's what I'm there to watch.
I mean, he's unbelievable.
Oh, he's the best.
So then Ball is Manute Ball's son, right?
Yes.
And was he like the number 1 recruit in the country? Wasn't he? Was he like top 5?
I think he was highly coveted.
Yeah.
I don't think he's just like tall guy. I think he's
for
highly
sure.
coveted.
But I haven't really heard much of him even in the tournament. Really,
Yeah,
I
good
thought
call.
being. I mean, he's not Zion obviously, but I know Zion was like the big recruit too. But I could have swore Ball was a pretty.
I think you're right. I think he was pretty good, pretty big recruit.
Bull, I guess Bull, not Ball.
Listen, I think it's a lazy excuse sometimes about a West Coast bias. But my goodness, there's a West Coast bias. I mean, there just is. Like, you don't know. We do this for a living. And I'm not going to lie to you, people. You go west of the Rockies, and my knowledge of the team starts going downhill. Heck, maybe even west of Ohio. I don't know. But it's amazing. It really is amazing. And I stay up late.
Yeah,
I stay up late. Yeah. So
straight up night owl.
What's amazing about it's not like I don't want to pay attention to it. It's not like I don't want to watch it. It's almost like Pac-12 style sports is just different. It feels different. I mean, listen, I know Boise State's not Pac-12, but Boise State has blue turf. If you look at Oregon, I think it's Oregon's court, right, that has all the trees on it.
Yeah.
It's just like things are different out there. Not good, bad, and different. I'm just saying they're different out there to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to flip around and watch a movie instead.
Hippies. Hippies are out there. I think that's what that is.
That's what I'm trying to say.
There's really good movies on it.
Marijuana's legal out there.
Like we just said,
Court's got trees on them and everything.
We'll circle back.
What do you think's
Bill
going on?
Walton's really entertaining.
And it all comes full circle. There it is.
I can't say. I mean, do you really lock into Pac-12 stuff? I mean, even college football. I love watching college football from morning till night if there's a game on and we're in the office or when I get home. Again, Saturday nights in football season, you don't wind down, so you really don't go to bed till 1:30, 2 o'clock anyway. And I'll catch a game, but I'm not glued to that game.
Even like when Marcus Mariota won the Heisman, I remember thinking like, I guess he's good. I have no idea. I can't say I've seen a lot of Marcus Mariota Oregon games, but from what I heard, he's got the stats and everything. Like, it's especially if they're playing on the West Coast, it's hard to catch those games. So I think even from I don't want to say like a hype standpoint for like a Heisman Trophy winner or something like that, but from just like a talent standpoint. But the fact that people don't get to watch those games, I think it hurts their stock a little bit.
It really does. It is legit. Bottom line, I mean, look, SportsCenter has tried to help it with the late SportsCenter, the new edition. They still do it?
I don't know if they still do it.
But they tried for a while
they did.
at least.
They had the LA version.
Yeah, and it was a good effort. And that being said, if I lived out there, I'd probably be pissed off about it, is my point.
Of course.
Right? I mean, because it does exist. And we say it about Trout. Glad like Harper didn't go out there. Machado's going to fall into. It's like Machado went to an abyss. I mean, San Diego, it's see ya, Manny. I mean, not that Manny probably was a big endorsement guy, but how much money do you think Mike Trout could be making on the East Coast from an endorsement standpoint? And somebody's going to tell me he's already making a ton of money endorsement-wise. Maybe he is, but he could be making a lot more. And I think I brought up the point last week. He was the 11th highest-selling jersey. In Major League Baseball. That's ridiculous.
He's the best player in
Mike
baseball.
Trout should be
number one.
Probably number one. Now, again, Judge is kind of this, doesn't feel like he's human baseball player. I would get it if Judge was number one or name somebody else. But yes, Mike Trout should not be the 11th selling jersey.
And look at Bryce Harper. Like Bryce Harper's right up there now too with the Phillies, and it's not like Bryce Harper's like a home run king or anything like that. He's not like he's a freak of nature. He does everything really well, but so does Trout.
Yeah.
You know, so what happens with Harper? He signs with the Phillies, and all of a sudden his jersey sales are skyrocketing, obviously because Philadelphia's excited. But at the same time, it makes you wonder if Trout would sign with like, you know, I don't want to say like the Phillies, but like a New York team or something like the Mets or something like that. That's how crazy it could be.
Well, we never appreciated probably to the fullest Ichiro. Never appreciated as much as we should have even a guy, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, he was unbelievable, but we didn't get to see him all the time. And that was a little bit different for me because I was kind of in high school and college and different. Maybe I would have tuned in more for Ken Griffey Jr. if he played now, or I was a little bit older at that stage. I'm not sure. But I think you just don't see them like you see other
Same
players.
Same thing with A-Rod, too. Like, A-Rod didn't really get like famous until he went to Texas.
And then New York.
Starts on that big deal, and then New York.
Yeah,
which, while we're talking about this West Coast, East Coast stuff, have you seen the tip times for March Madness this weekend?
On the weekend, I saw the Thursday nighters.
So the Thursday games will be at 7:10 and 9:40. That's the early one.
Yeah. Excuse me?
7:10 and 9:40. That's one pod.
Yeah.
7:30 and 10 for the other one, and that's a conservative second number. Because that second number, it never starts at that time.
Yeah,
it always
true.
takes
It's
a little
about 30
longer,
minutes
and you get
after.
30 minutes after the game. So you're talking about two games starting at or near 10 o'clock on Thursday night, and the same on Friday.
You know, I'm always interested in that because they obviously want to start. They want to get prime time, and prime time technically is 8 to 11 on the East Coast. But I disagree. Like, they have to change their ways, I believe.
You're staying up till midnight to watch the end of
prime time
those.
has changed. I think prime time should be more like 7 to 10. Like, we see it. We
Agreed.
see it in our business and TV. The viewing habits are different. People, I think, are going to bed a little earlier, getting up a little earlier, too. I believe. Again, this is unofficial polling.
I mean, not everybody's getting up earlier. But
It's unofficial polling. But I actually wouldn't be surprised. That'd be fascinating in the next 5 or 10 years, whatever it is. I don't know what the timetable is. If the primetime window moves to 7 to 10 instead of what it is at 8 to 11.
I absolutely agree. Just for the fact that with DVR now, a lot of people record it and watch it the next morning when they get up.
But,
you know,
but
like
sports falls
that easy.
but sports falls right into it because people don't DVR the sports.
Oh, I mean, I have before.
Well, I
some
know,
do, but the vast majority of sports
Wanna watch
viewers
it live.
need to see it live, or else
Okay.
it's going to be spoiled.
Okay.
Yeah, especially with social media and where you can't find it. Like Ty taped Duke last night, but he already knew, I think, what had happened.
Okay.
You know,
I got
because
you.
they were out. But so that'll be interesting. Now, the other part of that is if you slide up to 7 prime time, what does that do to the West Coast
I was
again?
about to say that's a 4:10 tip off for the West Coast.
That's rough.
So people are still at work.
Yeah.
You know, when that first game is tipping off.
Yeah. I mean, listen, again, I don't have. You can start a game at 11 o'clock at night, and I don't care.
Right.
But we talk about this a lot with some of the big sports, is that some of these games are so late. But luckily, Gonzaga, Florida State is probably the best game of the week. Game of that night, I think. No, it is the game of that night on paper. And that at least starts at 7:20. All right, hey, we got to do Fallen real quick. By the way, Fallen is my West Coast knowledge, okay? I'll just keep it at that. That will make it nice and quick.
Fallen,
there you go.
I swear I didn't plan this with Stuart in here, but not only did the Florida Gators take a beating, but so did their mascot, Albert the Alligator.
Yeah, you see this.
No.
Why did we show this on the weekend?
For some reason, Albert the Alligator and the tuba player from Michigan had some banter back and forth that ended up with the tuba player, this girl literally just tackling Albert on the sidelines and throwing some punches and whatnot. Now, listen, I'm into wrestling. I understand wrestling can be scripted. And I thought for sure.
Was this scripted?
Well, here's my point. So I thought this was scripted, too, just for the fact that it was so ridiculous, this little girl trying to tackle Albert and punch him. Like, oh, this is so staged. But if you watch the security guards behind her, there's this, and I'm talking about a lady wearing like a red coat running, like look with a look of concern. Lady. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It begs the question if it really was staged and that this tuba player is actually ticked off at Albert the Alligator.
I saw the lady you're talking about.
And that's what kind of made me think this was a real thing.
Those things are usually staged.
Yeah, of course. She might just might not have been in the loop.
She might not have been.
Which, by the way, what's Albert supposed to do? Is he supposed to attack a non-mascot?
I know it.
Absolutely.
Mascot cannot attack a non-mascot.
Bull crap.
Especially a tuba player.
Well, hey, I don't know if this was Steve Irwin's daughter or what, man, but she took him down real quick and maintained top position and knocked him out. So props to her. A little ground and pound.
Hey, I want to talk more about Florida State hoops. By the way, Florida baseball play tomorrow at the baseball grounds, 6 o'clock. We will be right outside the baseball grounds. The Jacksonville Tavern. Come say hello before you go watch the little ball. But I do want to talk about Florida State basketball a little bit more, and more on Gronk and the owners' meetings coming up next on ESPN 690.
Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau on ESPN 690 is brought to you by Best Bet Jacksonville and Orange Park.
The Bearded Villains of Jacksonville presents the Dirty South 4 at the Jacksonville Landing on March 30th. This is a DSV4 regional meet, and all proceeds benefit the National Kidney Foundation. Beginning at 7 p.m., there'll be a beard competition, including a ladies' division. Ladies, be creative and make a beard you'd be proud to show off. Admission is free. Get more information at bv904.com or send an email to bvjacksonville@gmail.com. March 30th at the Jacksonville Landing starting at 7 p.m.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau of Action Sports Jax on ESPN 690. And if you're even thinking about taking a look at a new car, you need to go see my friends at the new Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. If you haven't seen the new 2019 Hyundai Kona, head over to Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville on Atlantic Boulevard and take it for a test drive. The 2019 Hyundai Kona was named the North American Utility Vehicle of the Year. It has enough room for the family, but it's not too big. It really is the ideal crossover vehicle. If you don't need something as big as a crossover or full-sized SUV, check out the new 2019 Hyundai Elantra sedan. It's a very slick car, and it starts at only $17,985. The manufacturer also offers $2,000 cash back on select 2019 Hyundai Elantras, but the offer is only valid through April 1st. The Hyundai you want, the service you deserve, all with a 7-day money-back guarantee. Schedule a test drive at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville.com and make sure you tell them Brent Martineau sent you.
The Medical Group Management Association of Northeast Florida is proud to join forces with the Duval County Medical Society to host its first annual symposium on April 18th. Aimed at helping physicians and practice managers to smoothly operate their practice day to day, topics include healthcare trends impacting your practice, stress management and communication, and empathy in the workplace. To register, go to nfmgma.com. That's nfmgma.com. All attendees must be employed by a medical group or practice.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation present the 2019 Take Steps Jacksonville Walk on April 13th at Memorial Park right here in Jacksonville. Registration begins at 9 a.m. and the walk begins at 11. Supporters are encouraged to create a team and raise money to help change the lives of the almost 18,000 residents of Northeast Florida affected. For more information, visit cctakesteps.org/Jacksonville 2019. That's cctakesteps.org/Jacksonville 2019.
311 311 and Dirty Heads just announced they're coming back to Jacksonville this summer on August 4th. Go to the contest page on ESPN690.com now and enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the show at Daly's Place. 311 and Dirty Heads with ESPN 690.
Hey, it's Mike Golick from Golick and Wingo. You're listening to Action Sports Jax with our friend Brent Martineau on ESPN 690.
Hey, hope you're having a good Monday as you head home from work. We'll reset things a little bit. I think two of the biggest storylines, obviously March Madness continues to be a storyline. Your bracket is very important to me. Actually, it's not, but it's probably important to you. And I do think Florida State is a big storyline. Listen, Florida lost. We haven't really spent a lot of time on it. I think we spent a lot of time on it Friday because they won that game, and I thought that was a really good win over Nevada. But nobody's surprised that Florida lost to Michigan. I mean, they were just okay all year long. I think you got to give them credit for winning one game and how far they actually came from the middle of the season when it looked like they might miss the NCAA tournament and all. And they have a lot coming in. We've talked about that. So this is really, Florida's in the rear view to me. But Florida State with that performance on Saturday says, whoa, if they can beat Gonzaga, which they did last year, but if they can beat Gonzaga this time around, I think if you did Vegas odds, if they were to beat Gonzaga Thursday night, I think they would probably be the third best odds to, well, I don't know about best, but
Duke
the highest.
Duke,
UNC first. I think UNC's first.
I think so.
Yeah, I do. The way they're playing, if you really look at it and get out of the Zion hype, UNC is playing better basketball than Duke, in my opinion. So I would put UNC, I would put Duke, and then I'm going to either put the Gonzaga or Florida State winner as the third best odds to win the national title. That's the way I'm going.
Not throw Michigan in there, huh?
I don't.
Okay.
I think Gonzaga is a bigger hurdle than Michigan. Now, again, the tide changes every time they go out and roll the ball up.
Yeah.
But the way Florida State's played, the way we know what their team is full of athletes and different guys. Who's the best player on Florida State?
They have
It's the collective.
Yeah, they have such a deep roster. And I remember going into the tournament, we were looking up the stats, and I want to say it was 9 different guys had led the team in scoring in a game going into the tournament. That's an insane number.
That is nuts.
You know, to have that many different guys who can contribute enough points to be your leading scorer in a game. And consider this first weekend was played without Phil Kofer.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like Phil Kofer's only had I think he's got like 7.5 points a game. So he hasn't been unbelievable. But
all their guys have 7.5, so
he can be your best player on a given night. And I think that's the point. Like they'll have a guy, and I'm like, wait, who is that? The name you know,
Vassell. Who's
Kavaji and Terrence Mann, and you know those guys now, right? And you know Kofer. They've been around for a while.
Kabengele now too,
and Kabengele,
hard to ignore him,
and very good. And but I do think it's hard to say, yeah, that's the best guy on the team, and that's fascinating. And in a world of college basketball, really, where most coaches will tell you, when the calendar turns and you've played November and December, I know my 8 guys that I'm sticking with. And we might get a 9th guy on here for the last 4 minutes or someone's in foul trouble, but I know the 8 guys I'm rolling with. Heck, I don't know. Leonard knows the 8 guys he's rolling with, from Sunday to Thursday. And they are really, really deep, and it works for them. It's unusual. It really works for them. But they're
like
so talented,
18 guys on the roster or something like that.
It's unbelievable how many guys at DNP.
It was funny at the end of the Murray State game where it's like, this isn't their starting 5 that's out there right now. Wait a second. They had all the walk-ons on, all the managers, they had all those guys out there. I'm like, this doesn't look like the normal Florida State team playing out there.
There's something to be said for that kind of philosophy and the fact that you have guys fresh, you have guys healthy, you can crash the boards, then play that defense. So, I mean, I guess if you have the talent, if you have the depth, why not do it? I mean, I feel like sometimes, and listen, it's worked for Florida State, but I feel like sometimes you might mess up, I guess, because in basketball, it's all about flow. It's all about chemistry. So I feel like sometimes, if you have, like you said, Stuart, 9 different, leading scorers in a game, I feel like sometimes the team chemistry, the team dynamic could be off just because you're always going with different rotations and whatnot. But obviously I'm wrong here because Florida State whooped Murray State, and they look to be like a dark horse to kind of, go to the NCAA championship here.
Yeah, and I just think they are. I kind of like, where did this come from? Like Florida, since I've been here, at least the last dozen years, Florida State's been okay at times.
They made the nice run last year.
Oh, well, last year's different. I mean, that's kind of where I'd say where they
when
come
it
from
turned,
before that. Leonard Hamilton's been on, like, why is he still the coach so many times? And the man is in his 70s now, and he's putting together these recruiting classes. In a day and age where we talk about coaching, that you almost have to lower the coaching age so you can relate to this day and age kid, right? Or young man or athlete. We talk a lot about that. We've talked about it with the Jags at the professional level. Yet now listen, and on a college basketball team, the other guys recruit too. I mean, so there's the building of relationships is not just with the head coach. But it's fascinating to me he's been able to get this kind of talent. And they've shipped some talent to the NBA in these last few years. Like, they've actually had maybe more individually talented players than these last 2 years over the last 4 or 5 seasons. So he's been able to get these top-flight recruits, and a lot of people will bring up, well, he graduates, I think it's like 94%. Graduates 94% of them. I brought up the other day, I mean, they hardly are ever in, you never hear of a guy in trouble. Or very seldom. Maybe never's a little too strong. But it is really interesting to see where all of a sudden Florida State, I kind of joke around because, when Florida was struggling in football, Florida fans like, hey, we're grabbing onto this basketball thing, man. We got Billy D. We're going to the Elite Eight with Mike White. Now I kind of feel like Florida State's doing the same thing. Florida State's like, I don't know what the hell our football program's doing, but we love our basketball here in Tallahassee.
Softball national champs, too.
There we go. It is really funny how, they parallel each other a few years apart in that sense.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with Florida State. Like, going into the tournament, obviously, I just said I got them in the Final Four. And the reason I had that is because they've got size, they've got seniors, and they've got shooters. And I feel like those are 3 huge things if you want to be successful in the NCAA tournament. And the big question people have always asked me is, like, what about the coaching? Is Leonard Hamilton going to be able to guide this team to that level and to be able to make those right decisions at the right times? And, I mean, we'll see. That's kind of the thing that we're all watching. We're keeping an eye on it, and we'll see when they get into that close game. And that's almost undoubtedly going to happen this Thursday on CBS 47.
And he's a guy that probably doesn't get enough credit, right? Because, he did something right against Murray State. I mean, the way
for sure.
Now, listen, were they more talented? They're probably a more talented team. I understand, but
there's a lot of other teams that have not been able to shut down Morant.
Yeah, you still have to make now the question.
Down, quote unquote.
Yeah,
I mean, he still got his points, but from the most
stop
part,
him from contributing in the assist game.
There we go. Yes,
is what they did.
Yep.
The question about Florida State to me is they've not other than the Virginia win in the ACC tourney, they don't have marquee wins. Right, they haven't beaten the Duke in North Carolina, but that's the nature of this year's.
Right, they beat Florida. That's a marquee game, isn't it?
That's
wait a minute.
Nature of this year's NCAA. There are a couple of, wherever, I don't know where you want to draw the cutoff, but the top 4 seeds, and then you can go to Tennessee, I think, and you can go to Kentucky if you want. It kind of stops there. Maybe Michigan State. Although I think that's questionable. Michigan, are they in it? So maybe you can go to 8 teams. I think that's a maybe in saying they're elite, and I would be hard-pressed to find you to beat them.
I could put Virginia in there?
And I think Duke, Virginia, the top 4 seeds and maybe the top 2
I got
seeds.
you. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Well, how come we had so much chalk in the bracket then?
Well, no, that's my point, is that the rest of the NCAA is so down this year.
Yeah.
Where you you get a lot of parity still between probably 6 seed or 5 seed and the rest of them, but there's very few elite. Just like there's not a lot of depth this year, which allowed Indiana and Florida and those teams to be even on the verge of getting in when they probably didn't deserve it, before they, like Florida, earned their way into the SEC tournament. But some thought maybe they would be in anyway with 17 or 18 wins. Indiana was even in the conversation with like 15 or 16 wins, which was ridiculous. So the depth of the NCAA this year is not that good, is my point. Just like that, though, there are not as many elite teams either. So it almost like muddies the water. Right, instead of having 15 or 18 teams that could win it, that have the goods to win it, I think you really probably only have 6 to 8 teams that could win it. Maybe you sneak to 9 or 10 teams. And then,
so you're thinking a lot of 1s and 2 seeds are coming out of the Sweet 16.
I do. I mean, I think you could slide Houston into that fold. I think you can slide Florida State into there.
I hope so. I have
Auburn, man's been shooting lights out too.
But see, Auburn's not winning the national title. I don't think. See, Auburn's on the outside of that for me. You might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
I feel like they have a coach that can get them there too as well.
He's
Sweaty Bruce.
And listen, they shoot threes like They did the other night. Like, it's crazy. All right, my last thought on Florida State. It feels like Leonard Hamilton's been there forever. I feel like we may have talked about this in the past, but I still think it's worth mentioning. And I'd love somebody else to research this for me because I'm not doing it. But what a blessing in Tallahassee they've had. It's a weird word to use in sports, but in this context, they had Bobby Bowden for like 40 years. An unbelievable man, right? I mean, how do you not like Bobby Bowden? I think even Florida people had a hard time not liking Bobby Bowden at times. And obviously a resume with tremendous coach. They've had Mike Martin, who's going to be here in town for the last time in Jacksonville, playing Florida tomorrow at the baseball grounds. Again, we'll be right across the street, Jacksonville Tavern. Come say hello. Come have a drink. Happy hour horn.
But don't dance in the background of the shot.
Or you can if you want.
We got a new backdrop, though, right?
We do have backdrop.
Looks good, too, by the way.
Problem.
Yep.
But they've had Mike Martin again. Is there a nicer man in college baseball? A lot of people would say no, and look at the track record. Without the national titles, I understand, but look at the records. He's got 2,000 wins. And now they have Leonard Hamilton has not had the success of Bowden and Martin.
Been there since 2002, by the way.
He's been there since 2002. It feels longer because he's older, right? But this is a guy he's been around a lot of different places, including the NBA for a while.
That's where he was before Florida State.
Yep.
A year with the Wizards.
So now we're getting, though, close to a 20-year run. I mean, can you find in the major sports 40-year run, 40-year run, 20-year run with the kind of people they've had? You know? I mean, Leonard Hamilton, again, is considered a great man. Mm-hmm. Mike Martin, Leonard Hamilton, Bobby Bowden. I mean, that's pretty damn good. That is about as good as you get. That's 100 years of coaching, the three major sports. And hard to replace those kind of guys. And really, obviously, they're proven now. Even Hamilton joins the mix, especially if he gets to the Final Four or wins a title.
Let me go and ask this question quick before the break. If Florida State goes to the Final Four, do we see a change of philosophy in college basketball where they're going to start incorporating more guys in the lineups, more rest? Obviously the outputs more with more defense and whatnot. Because like Florida State does it, I feel like Virginia Commonwealth did it when they ran their press with Shaka Smart. Yeah. But do you see a trend that more teams might start doing that? Teams that aren't like the Kentuckys, that aren't like the Dukes, that get the prime time players.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I would say no because I still think it's hard to get that many good players on a roster. You know, somehow they've been able to do it at Florida State to fit in the mix. I think it's unusual to get 10, 12 guys that you can rely on this time of year and you trust this time of year. That's why it shrinks down. You just don't trust that many guys on the team. Or guys are in slumps, right? Yeah. I don't trust 10 or 12 people in general.
No.
You're right. Hey, we got to stay in your lane and NFL talk next on ESPN 690.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And two Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
Peace of mind. It's one of the most important things we have, and sometimes the most elusive. I'm Glenn Levine from the law offices of Anajar and Levine. If you've been injured in a slip and fall accident, call us at 904-600-4000.
Office in Jacksonville.
Why do local women watch Action News Jax? Because the unexpected can mess up their day. They like to know about the rain, the recalls, and school changes because their families are depending on them. They need more than just crime stories. They want to be in the know with real investigations that truly impact them, not something they can just Google. Is that selfish? We don't think so. Their time is valuable. In fact, more women are now watching Action News Jax than any other station.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau, family owned in Jacksonville for more than 40 years and fresh ingredients every day. That's what Renna's Pizza was built on, and that's what Renna's Pizza delivers. A menu to satisfy the entire family. Fantastic pizza, fresh salad, and Italian favorites like stuffed shells. There's a Renna's Pizza near you. Marsh Landing, Bay Meadows, Argyle Forest, San Jose, and the newest location in Neptune Beach. Be a part of the family today at Renna's Pizza.
Growing up, gambling was all around me. It seemed harmless.
In my case, my gambling addiction started out as recreation.
Recognize the play before the addiction starts. Educate your children about gambling addiction. Call the 24-hour confidential problem gambling helpline at 888-ADMIT-IT. That's 888-ADMIT-IT. Your hope for a new tomorrow. All services are free to Florida residents, including treatment.
This message is sponsored by the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Do you know a child that is deaf or blind? The Florida School for the Deaf and Blind in St. Augustine offers a tuition-free educational program to prepare the child for a lifetime of success. FSDB offers free comprehensive education, transportation, and boarding services at no cost to all eligible deaf or blind students elementary through high school, no matter where you live in Florida. Call 800-344-3737 or log on to www.fsdb.k12.fl.us to find out more.
If Dell Demps had moved, Anthony Davis as general manager for the New Orleans Pelicans, he would have been fired. You know, you had teams in smaller markets on the phone calling him, imploring him not to capitulate to the demands.
The Stephen A. Smith Show, weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m. on ESPN 690.
You watch Action Sports Jax on CBS 47 and Fox 30.
Now Action Sports Jax is on your radio.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Here's your host, Brent Martineau.
Weber bowling a 193.
No big deal. Jeez.
You afraid of bowling too?
No, Brett, not afraid of bowling, man. Why? You want to go bowling? I'll beat you.
I would like that. That'd be some good bonding for the team.
Bonding?
No, I figured some things out. I was getting too much stick on the thumb, so I got some chalk on there.
I hate it when that happens.
So, I was really able to get a good roll going there.
Do you need the delay button for whatever you just said?
Just a little too much stick. That's all.
Don't stick on the thumb, Brent.
Stick on the thumb.
Get your head out of the gutter,
Yeah, don't
man.
be a stick in the mud.
I have no idea.
I do not wear the wrist brace.
You should.
That'd be awesome. Like Weber,
I don't need
right?
I don't need
That's
the wrist
other
brace
Weber.
though. What's
Isn't
that?
that like
Pete Weber.
Pete Weber.
Yeah, that's whatever. Brent, that was another awkward. I went for the high five, and Brent went for the knucks.
That
That's all
is
right,
for
though.
sure a fall-in right there.
It's all right. It happens
As
every
long
single
as the
time.
video stream got it, we're good.
We got
sure
it.
did.
But anyways, yes, Pete Weber.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not quite
We
on
get
his
excited
level.
about knowing our bowling
Yeah, we
knowledge.
Proud of you guys.
Knowing our bowling knowledge.
So is the
Seems
wrist
kinda
support
redundant.
just for if you have like arthritis, or what is that even for?
I mean, if you bowl for long enough and you bowl with a heavy enough ball, you're going to want that wrist support.
I know
because
that feeling.
The folks who throw a hook tend to hold the ball on the side as opposed to underneath, so you don't have any support.
Yeah.
So when
Brent
you're
got
holding it on the side, you got to be able to really hold that thing.
Fair enough. All right, man. I think it's enough bowling talk for today, right?
That was clearly a drop opportunity.
Before I
What do
say
you mean?
something else.
That's clearly a drop
Before I
opportunity
say
missed
something else here.
by Coos right there.
I know, man. Coos, come on,
Totally
dude.
missed it.
I set you up and everything, and you just...
He's come up with some
There it
really
is.
big loose balls,
I mean,
and he just did it again.
That was almost like UCF last night, throwing the alley-oop and just didn't connect. Oh, well.
It's all right.
All right, let's get to the NFL owners' meetings.
You can't wait.
And reaction around the
I
league.
love Nick Foles.
Yes, thank you. Reaction around the league for Gronk. To reset a little bit, if you missed it right off the top of the show, we were talking a lot about Gronkowski, and Austin Lane says best tight end ever. I disagree. I feel like I would go with Tony Gonzalez. I might even throw a Kellen Winslow. I have a little less knowledge of viewing him week in, week out as I do a Gronkowski or even Tony Gonzalez. Weber, you in on the Gronk?
Yeah, I could go with that argument.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what he's done from just raising the profile of that position even. I mean, people talk about tight ends because of what Gronkowski did. And I don't feel like they did that quite as much with Tony Gonzalez. Maybe he got it started, got that conversation started. But when you talk about, and I'll relate it to the people who are listening, fantasy football, people think about fantasy football now from a tight end perspective. And you think, well, how high do I pick a Gronkowski or now a Kelsey? Because you couldn't pick Gronkowski that high this past year. But He created that buzz about that position because of his ability to score touchdowns.
And listen, Brennan, I know you brought up before, but the whole quarterback situation where he had Tom Brady throwing to him. And yeah, obviously they had some play to do with Gronkowski's success, but I remember for a while it was Jimmy Graham and Gronkowski were the top 2 tight ends in the league. Jimmy Graham obviously had a lot of success in New Orleans, goes to Seattle with another great quarterback in Russell Wilson, doesn't necessarily have the same success, and then goes to arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now in Aaron Rodgers, and what did he do there? Absolutely nothing. So while I think Tom Brady did play a key, obviously Tom Brady plays a key in everyone's careers, that gets to play for him. At the same time, a lot of that can be attributed to Gronk's success as well, and just his talent as a tight end receiver.
And again, I was not trying to throw shade on the career of Rob Gronkowski. I'm just talking in the pantheon of great tight ends. It'll be used as an argument against him a little bit, I think, just a little bit against him compared to, say, Tony Gonzalez's quarterbacks that he's played with over the years. But again, I think those are going to be very hard to compare because of length of career. So the numbers are going to be blown way out of proportion. What's amazing is 79 touchdowns in 521 receptions for Gronk. That's unbelievable. And I asked at the early part of the show, and before I even get to that, because I'm going to forget to do this if not, I thought Stuart just brought up a really good point. Fantasy football has changed the way we view guys. We see guys. Before Jalen Ramsey, the most national, if you will, Jacksonville Jaguars player was not Brunell, Jimmy Smith, Fred Taylor. It was Maurice Jones-Drew. And the reason it was Maurice Jones-Drew is because of fantasy football.
Won the rushing title that year.
Well, he won the rushing title, but he also scored a ton of touchdowns in those early years. Even when Fred was still here, I think that was right at the onset of fantasy football, and he was scoring touchdowns. Like, he stole Fred's touchdowns sometimes. Right? I mean, at the 3-yard line, Maurice Jones-Drew would get the ball. And so people loved it.
The all-star effect.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see how we view guys. I have a really hard time in the moment putting guys that are now playing right now as greatest of all time. I almost need it to sit back for 5 or 6 or 7, 10 years, whatever it is. Now, there's a couple of exceptions. I think it's clear to say Tom Brady. And I also believe LeBron James is in the conversation as a top 5 player, top 3 player, however you want. We can do that argument another day. But I think he's in that conversation. He's currently still playing and has years to go.
I think from just the football position, wide receiver, I think Jerry Rice is by far the greatest of all time. We can all agree.
And I don't know if it is going to be trumped.
I don't think so.
And right now, like Tom Brady's at a point where I'm not sure you're ever going to get a quarterback that's going to trump what they've just done.
I'd say your guy Vinatieri too.
And Vinatieri's in there. Well, that's a good call. Vinatieri's right there. But it's hard in the moment to put guys. Okay, like if you ask me, James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Now, LeBron's different to me, but it's hard, I think, to gauge where they rank. And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of other guys. Well, Tiger Woods, you certainly can rank. So there's probably more of them this day and age than even I want to admit. But my original thought is fantasy football helps create stars, and maybe your perception of them is even bigger than they are because of fantasy football.
If they won you a title. But to circle back to the tight end discussion, I think it's a really hard one to have too, because what is a tight end? It is such a multifaceted position, and they have so many different tasks. Some guys are so blocking geared. Some guys are so pass catching geared. You can have 2 completely different players, and who's to say that the one who is able to catch those passes and catch the touchdowns is going to be that much better of a tight end than the guy who laid the path for running backs year after year.
From that aspect, you have to go the passing tight end all day because he's catching the touchdowns. It's just like the philosophy of a three technique versus defensive end. Now, granted, Aaron Donald kind of shoots that situation down because Aaron Donald led the league in sacks this year as a 3 technique, which is insane. But for most years, the defensive end will lead the league in sacks. And what is that saying? Well, I think there's a higher price put on defensive ends and pass rushers just because the sack is such an important stat, just like on offense where they're catching touchdowns is an important stat as opposed to just blocking.
And then you bring back in the fact that how much can that defensive end do without the work of that defensive tackle? And the same goes for the pass catchers. How much can they do?
I agree with you. Absolutely.
And it's such an interesting thing to evaluate that one specific position because it's so varied. And we're talking about a game that's a game of 11, not a game of 1, not a game of 2, to where you have to always rely on these other guys. And in some situations, a team needs that sort of tight end versus the Gronk type.
What I'm curious to see going forward, if there's ever going to be another Gronkowski again, and by saying that, I mean a guy that's going to be dominant in the pass, obviously in the pass game, catching balls and whatnot, but also a guy that's dominant in the run game, that actually lowers his head, that delivers a blow, that just doesn't absorb contact like most tight ends do. Like Rob Gronkowski was not a finesse tight end. He was a power guy. He would push you off the line. You don't see that too much in the NFL, and I feel like Gronkowski's style is like the old style of like a 3-down running back, where you don't see a lot of 3-down running backs anymore. Why? Because they don't last long. They end up, they're hurting their careers, whether it's injuries or whatnot. They just can't sustain that type of success for so long. I mean, I guess Todd Gurley you have now, Ezekiel Elliott. But as far as 3-down running backs, you don't see too many of them anymore. You see teams going with 2 running backs now just because from the injury standpoint. I feel like the same thing can be said with tight end as well, where you're not going to see the guy that's going to come off the line and be a good run backer and then be a good pass catcher as well.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, I think you're right about that, and that's where I was eventually going, is will we ever see a guy like Gronk again? Now, we'll see a guy try to be like Gronk again. I mean, T.J. Hawkinson, hopefully the 7th pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars in a couple of weeks, might be the guy that can block and can receive. But Willie, that body type, the style of play that you just brought up, he kind of reminds me of like the big Poppy of tight ends because of all the armor he had on, like all this stuff.
And listen, and I played against Gronk twice. I remember game planning against them because they have like their height and weight. Like he was, I think, 6'5", 240. So you see that on paper and you're like, well, it's not that big. But then as soon as you get on the field and like you said, he's got like this giant arm brace, like he's like part Terminator. And you see him on the field, man, it's like, holy crap, this dude's actually pretty big.
Gronk.
It's crazy.
Gronk, Spike, Gronk. I will say this. I love seeing guys go out on top, too, and I think his body was beat up. But keep in mind what he did in that Kansas City game. I said this on TV last night. They put him out wide on a single coverage, catches the ball down the field on the one play, and then on like a skinny post on a 3rd and 10 or something like that, big play, phew, Brady, and he catches it. I mean, those were 2 huge plays toward the end of his career that helped them get to the Super Bowl in that game. They needed those plays.
And also, Super Bowl, their only scoring touchdown was really from Gronk setting it up with when he's in double coverage.
Very good point. There he is again. So he goes out on top. I don't think he's coming back. There's some talk about him coming. He's not coming back. Hey, a rule change potentially in the NFL. Want to get your thoughts? Kind of a hot take question, and stay in your lane to finish up a Monday on ESPN 690.
It's Golick and Wingo.
Boston was a pit of misery outside of the Celtics for decades in terms of winning. Okay, you had the Celtics and you had everything else that was kind of a big bowl of crap. These sports fans in Boston, they really have no idea how good they have it, and I wonder what it's going to take for them to understand the embarrassment of riches that has come their way.
Golick and Wingo, weekday mornings at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
If trouble finds you, you want a board-certified expert in civil trial to help. Call the law offices of John Phillips at 904-444-4444. John will be by your side as an advocate and as a friend. When things go wrong, you need help to make it right. So give John a call. Personal injury, family, and criminal law. The number is 904-444-4444 or visit FloridaJustice.com. Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martineau. If you've received a letter from the IRS and can't pay them, things can get bad quickly. The IRS can seize your bank account, garnish your wages, and place liens against everything you own. If this is you, contact J. David Tax Law, a local firm right here in Jacksonville. Your first step to stop IRS harassment is a no-cost consultation. They explain exactly your options and how they will resolve your tax issue. Only highly experienced tax attorneys will represent you, and fee payment plans are affordable for everyone. Get the protection you deserve. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away. The fastest way to get started is to call 904-507-4777. 904-507-4777. Or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com. The number again, 904-507-4777. Or online at jdavidtaxlaw.com.
Sports Center updates at the top and bottom of every hour. And the latest breaking news and sports around the clock. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. This is ESPN 690.
Now, back to Action Sports Jax with Brent Martineau
on ESPN 690 and ESPN690.com.
Hey, we are back. Oh, boy. Almost didn't make it through that sentence. What you got on the magic whiteboard?
Forget Mondays. Treat every day like it's Saturday night.
Yeah. I've got nothing wrong with Mondays. I think it's the thing. The reason why I don't have a problem with Mondays is because our Saturdays and Sundays are mostly different.
Yes.
You know, it's not like Friday doesn't mean the end of the work week. Monday doesn't mean the start of the work week.
Monday's usually like a Wednesday for me.
You know, one thing I like about this radio deal, I never thought about it over the years as I was doing it, as much as I think about it now. Like, I didn't talk to Kuz all weekend. That's what I kind of like about this radio.
I know, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't ever text them really.
But, I don't talk, you kind of just, radio, you end on Friday at 6, and you kind of put it down.
Yeah.
See, TV doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
I got to talk to these clowns every day.
And we got to talk to you.
And they got to talk to me every day. And really, probably a lot more than they want to. But it's so different. I'm not saying good, bad, and different. It's just really strange how on Saturday and Sunday, I come in Monday and actually look forward to seeing you guys because I hadn't seen you. The other
he
guys,
misses us,
not so
Cruz.
much.
It's kind of like a normal person job, right? Where
it really is.
Where they get away for a weekend.
Other than it's like 3 hours.
Yeah, other than the 3 hours a day thing. Yeah.
But come on, people. Be serious as you're driving home. Go think about right now, your day today. Sure, you went in at 8:30 and you're leaving at 5:30. But did you really work more than 3 hours today? How much did you check the phone? How much did you listen to the show? How much did you check your bracket? How much time did you spend at lunch? I mean, what was your work productivity today?
How long was your haircut that you got?
Wasn't that long, actually. It went pretty quickly. Yeah.
Sorry, Jacksonville.
Haircut? Never heard of it.
I just called out all of hardworking Jacksonville.
Yeah, all the blue-collar people, man. Nice job. Pretty much our demographic and everything.
By the way, that 3 hours, if you take out the commercial breaks, it really comes down to 2:15 or so.
Well, actually, right now it's more like 2:40.
Yeah.
Someday maybe
Feels that way sometimes.
You ever wonder how much content's coming out? Look at the length of the podcast.
Hey, look at the podcast.
There you go.
That's
Very
it.
good idea. All right, stay in your lane.
Yep.
Let's go.
Quick question, Brent. This whiteboard right here, we talked about it. Live every day like it's Saturday night. Do you know who that came from? Famous basketball coach.
Saturday night, famous basketball. Sure as hell isn't something Bobby Knight would say.
No.
UCLA.
Nope.
John Wooden.
No. Al McGuire, Marquette.
Oh, okay. Yep. No, that makes more sense.
That makes more sense, right? Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense.
All right, let's get this. Let's get the stay in your lane quick. Sorry, cruise control. Tattoos are big on this show. If you add Brent's tattoos with mine, we have over 25 tattoos combined.
Yes,
and mine in there too. Yeah,
and Stuart's got some too as well.
Yep. We all have 25.
We all have 25.
Yep.
So. That's why Brent and I, obviously, we have to give out the tattoo of the tournament when it comes to basketball, and that's going to Indiana guard Devontae Green.
I love
Seeing
this.
how he's in the NIT tourney, it's going to be the NIT tourney tattoo of the year. Brent, if I was to say, and this is what he has tattooed on his back tricep.
Oh, dear.
L1, R1, box, R1, left, R2, R1, left, box, down, L1, L1.
It's so obvious.
PlayStation.
What?
Yep.
Yeah. What would you think that's from, though? What game?
Oh, jeez. Well, I would say Madden.
Okay. Nope.
I'll guess Crash
NBA
Bandicoot.
2K.
Ooh, Crash Bandicoot. No. Unfortunately, you guys are both wrong. He has the unlimited ammo code from Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So he's taking all the shots, basically. Props to him. The coolest tattoo that I've seen the whole tournament, and that's an NIT.
That is pretty good. By the way, the NIT games you could argue have been better.
No, absolutely. I haven't watched them at all, but I saw
Haven't
that
seen a
tattoo.
single one.
I just seen the scores.
My team wasn't in it
I
this
watched
year.
the
so.
Indiana game a little bit, but
Pump your brakes. Got to go with Sabri Saderi. Look, I'm never going to make light of someone getting knocked out. That's the way fights go. Someone has to win, someone has to lose, and knockouts are unfortunately a brutal part of the sport, and it sucks. But I will always make an exception when I can make a teaching point. So with Sabri, I'm making a teaching point right here. Sabri was up big on the scorecards in the WBO European 140-pound title, 140-pound title. With 30 seconds left in the final round, he started to showboat a little bit, taunting the opponent Maxwell, paying him no respect by putting his hands down, talking smack to him, just overall being cocky. With 13 seconds left, Maxwell took advantage of his opponent's cockiness and knocked him out cold. He was one of the biggest underdogs on that card. He lost every single round into the last round, and needless to say, stay humble till that bell goes off.
stay humble. In kind.
Yes.
Says Tim McGraw.
And this has been another edition of Stay in Your Lane.
That was excellent.
Try to speed it up.
What's your next tattoo?
Oh, good question.
ESPN 690.
Well, we can do that maybe. But I was going to get.
How about if we take the ratings lead in town? I'll get a tattoo.
Oh, seriously?
Whoa.
I'm going to push social media so hard tonight. I'm going to be like,
dude, it's not for a day.
You got to do it for a good month.
Well, then I will hire people to do it for me. Yeah, we're doing that. Seriously, deal? If we get the ratings?
Oh, boy.
Shake on it right now, Brent.
You threw that out there.
Okay, I don't know. This is what
he's backpedaling. Hey, Dion, what's up, man?
Yeah, you got that right. All right, I'll shake on it.
Okay, well, we
fist bump on it.
Yeah.
You
We're
guys
on the
heard
same
it, right?
page this time.
We got it on video.
No, yeah, that's
but
recorded.
You also, this is not like one day. I'm not saying
How about,
one day.
are we saying an entire book? Or are we saying?
Well, I mean, you got to show all right, we are the number one show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna start
Nick,
calling all my friends.
Nick, if you're listening, start gathering the data.
Yep. Yeah. And what's the tattoo gonna be?
I mean, we might already be. I have no idea. I haven't looked at it, but
what's the tattoo gonna be?
Oh my
Brent?
God, I got it. SpongeBob with that number one hat on that says "We are number one."
Yeah.
How do you like that, Brent?
Sure.
You want a SpongeBob tattoo for your first one? And you know what we can do too when we get there, because I'm that confident. When we get there, we'll bring the artist in here to do the tattoos while we do the show.
Oh
how
my
does that
gosh.
sound?
How much does it hurt?
Sounds sanitary.
Depends on where you get it.
Yeah, it depends.
Why does that depend?
Are you kidding me? Like the ribs?
Yeah,
spot?
like.
Oh, I thought you meant. I thought you meant at what tattoo part?
Oh no!
I mean, I guess that too. That's
That
probably
actually
also true.
how gentle the artist could
I
be.
guess
Could
it
be a thing.
depends how good they are. No, I'm talking about body part.
Yeah, I get
region.
that.
Yeah,
I get that.
But no, usually every tattoo studio is about the same. I've been to a couple of them, and yeah.
All right. So you don't have a serious list of your next one? Are you getting another
no,
one, or are you done?
No, I'm actually going to get a full a leg sleeve. I'm starting up. It's going to be.
Wouldn't that just be called a pant? A pant leg?
Yeah, it'd be a pant leg.
Yeah,
well, I'm half Norwegian, so I'm going to get the helm of Ah, and then I'm going to get some other things on my shin. Do you know what the helm of Ah is?
No idea.
No, but you're about to tell us.
No, not really. It's just a symbol for protection and whatnot.
Okay.
And, yeah. So.
The helm of Ah.
Helm of Ah.
I like. It sounds kind of. Is it like a good visual?
It's like
yeah,
is
no,
a
for
helmet
sure.
like
I can bring in. You guys keep talking. I'll bring it up quick.
All right, we got some hot takes. We got to get to these things.
Yeah, really, just from the owners' meeting stuff, really.
Yeah.
One of them being the new rule change potentially for an onside kick. The idea would be put the team into a 4th and 15 situation on their own 35-yard line. And the reason I bring it up is because apparently the only one that's opposed to it is the owner of the New York Giants.
Yeah, John Mara.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he said so, and I like his reasoning. His reasoning is let's not gimmick this thing up. And I'm a big believer in that, too. If you're going to change rules, don't gimmick it up. Now, there's a big safety issue. They say onside kick is the most dangerous play in football, the way it was. Well, now it's pretty much an obscure play because of their new kickoff rules. So it's almost impossible to get an onside kick. So you could try that. Or did they do it this year?
They got one this year. It was one that didn't matter.
Yeah, that's probably everybody was sleeping.
Well, it was like they were like 2 touchdowns down.
Might have been a Miami game?
I'm trying to remember.
Why can't I remember that? I tried to forget the Jags season.
Sure.
But okay, so would you do you like it? I mean, would you rather from the 35-yard line, 4th and 15, your own 35-yard line?
I think I saw it happen once in the AAF because the AAF was doing this.
Yeah.
That same idea.
I don't think that's that gimmicky, though. If you give me a play like an onside kick that I have no chance to get, really like hardly zero, the same reason they changed the extra point, because 99% of them were going in, they said, well, what the heck? This is like a non-play. Well, if 99% of the time you're not getting a recovery, well, that's like a non-play.
I think the gimmicky part is just how do you come up with the down and distance and the spot where you do it from? You're just kind of going from, well, let's do it here.
Well,
and
I don't think it's that.
This.
It's still where you would normally, what do you kick off from? You kick off from, it's about where you'd kick off from.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you kick off from there.
And then you'd get 15 yards on the kick.
And even if you got 15 yards, though, you still have to you still have to make more plays after that, just like if you recover an onside kick.
Right.
I don't find this one gimmicky. I think I would disagree with Mara, although I understand his thought process, and I would say I'd vote this one in.
And it's a football play, by the way.
And it is a play. Now, the only other thing I do say is 15 yards nowadays is like 4th and 6, it feels like.
Sure.
But anyway, I think it would be exciting. Wouldn't you rather watch it? You rather watch that at the end of a game?
Yeah, from a rating standpoint, I think so.
Just from now, you don't have a dog in the fight.
I don't.
End of the game, you got to go for an onside kick. No, we're going to go 4th and 15. I'm interested.
That's exciting.
There you go.
I'm a soccer guy, so I don't know. You're taking away kicker roles here.
We all approve. Next.
All right, the next one was Sean Payton pushing for a replay officiating change. He says if they don't make a change, then they're essentially saying that they're happy and comfortable with what happened this year.
Yeah, I understand where he's coming from, too. I don't know if it's they don't like what happened. I think you're being I think
reactionary.
I think you're like, oh my, still stuck on what happened in that day in New Orleans, and I would be too if I was in New Orleans.
Miles Jack wasn't down,
but I don't think they are just saying, well, yeah, what happen's okay. No, but I also think they're trying not to overreact to it, and I don't think they're going to change it. I don't think anything's changing. You know what I believe? We argue this for weeks, and you need the BW3 button on a play like that and just have eye in the sky, and they say something and be like, we have to take a look at this. It takes 2 minutes. It's worth it.
Look, I mean, I don't care from the ref's perspective if they don't change anything. They still, they're sorry that it happened and it was a mistake. That's great and everything. But from a coach's standpoint, from a fan standpoint, if a rule doesn't get put into place that changes what happened, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
Because then there's always a risk it could actually happen again. So at least make an effort, NFL. At least make an effort to change something.
Remedy it.
Just remedy it a little bit just by saying, listen, we acknowledged what happened. We're sorry, and here's what we're going to do to change it. Because by not acknowledging it and changing anything, it just goes to show you, like, yeah, it's whatever. Same thing next year.
Hey, for first place, Kuz. And second place, Weber. Nice haircut, Weber.
Third
and Austin
place,
Lane.
me. And last place, Brent.
Last place, me. I won't see you on TV tonight, but still watch Fox 30 and CBS 47. Have a good night, everybody.
He's come up with some really big loose balls, and he just did it again.
ESPN 690 Sports Center Update.
I'm Aaron, and if you were watching the dance this weekend, you saw some surprises and some stuff you saw coming, but Duke almost losing to UCF had to be the most shocking.
Look, we're a young group, but what they did right at the end of that game in willing us to win was just absolutely sensational.
Coach K right there. Duke plays again Friday night along with everybody else in the East and Midwest brackets, while the West and the South go Thursday. Rob Gronkowski may have shaken up the NFL by announcing his retirement via Instagram, but his own agent says we may see Gronk again soon. Drew Rosenhaus on a podcast telling the audience that he reassured Gronk if he was feeling up to it, the Pats would take him back in a heartbeat. And 2 Georgia Bulldog football players have been arrested at a bar near campus. Tyler Simmons and Tariq Stevenson were cited with disorderly conduct for allegedly fist-fighting employees at the bar. Brent and Austin breaking down the latest sports headlines all afternoon long right here on Action Sports Jax. Keep it locked on ESPN 690.
Hey, everybody, this is Brent Martin of Action Sports Jax. Many of you know by now I'm a huge advocate for Hyundai vehicles. We actually drive a Hyundai in our family, and if you're in the market for a new vehicle, take it from me. There's no better place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle than Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. The car buying experience should be smooth and seamless, and that's the experience you'll get from my friends at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville. Take a look at their specials and incentives at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com. All you have to do is click the Specials tab, and you can find specials and incentives for new Hyundai vehicles. One thing you don't have to worry about at Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is being haggled by a salesperson. Their sales staff are pros, and they're on your team from getting you into the car you want with the best possible financing plan. Jenkins Hyundai of Jacksonville is second to none. Schedule a test drive at JenkinsHyundaiofJacksonville.com or at the showroom on Atlantic Boulevard. And tell them Brent Martineau from Action Sports Jax sent you.
Broadcasting live from the ESPN 690 Anajar and Levine studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000. ESPN 690. Jacksonville's home for ESPN Radio. WOKV Jacksonville. Listen live everywhere you go on ESPN690.com. ESPN 690, a Cox Media Group station.